We are beginning the special and regular meeting October 14th, 2024 at 7:05 p.m. And is there a closed session report?
No reportable action.
Thank you. We're entering now open session, and roll call, please.
Councilmember Bowles. Here. Councilmember Big Stick.
Present.
Councilmember Beer.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Beckmeyer.
Present.
Mayor Vaterlas.
Here. And I will read the land acknowledgement. The City of Pacifica acknowledges that we occupy the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone people, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula. We honor the Ramaytush Ohlone people for their enduring commitment to Mother Earth. As the indigenous protectors of this land and in accordance with their tradition, the Ramaytush Ohlone have never ceded, lost, nor forgotten their responsibilities as caretakers of this place, as well as for all people who reside in their traditional territory. We affirm their sovereign rights as First People and wish to pay our respects to the ancestors, elders, and relatives of the Ramaytush Ohlone people. And now we will lead the flag led by Mayor Pro Tem Beckmeyer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have our first special presentation, and
Look at us.
wait, let me make sure I have this right. Lynn Schutte, Cora is our first proclamation. No, I'm,
Right, I believe.
no,
Are we not in the right order?
I'm sorry. I'm inviting Cameron Zeller from Coast Pride to come up to the podium, and we will listen to his listen to the presentation.
Okay, can you hear me okay? Awesome, cool. My name is Cameron, my pronouns are they, them, and I work at Coast Pride, and just want to start out by saying thank you so much for inviting me to be here to share a little bit about Coast Pride. I know you all voted to give Coast Pride some money earlier this year, and it means a lot to us. We really appreciate it, and it's been really an incredible journey for me getting to work with the Pacifica community for the past few years. So I'll share a little bit about, can you go to the next slide, please? So I will share a little bit about how Coast Pride began, what we do at Coast Pride in general, and then some stories of Coast Pride in Pacifica. So starting off, Coast Pride was started in 2019, and it was the culmination of two things. One was that the County of San Mateo LGBTQ Commission did a study in San Mateo County looking at what the needs of LGBTQ community members were. And one of the key outcomes from that study was that LGBTQ coastsiders were feeling very isolated and not supported in their queer identities. And at the same time, there were some parents and caregivers in Half Moon Bay whose kids and grandkids were coming out as trans, and they were finding that they couldn't find the resources that they needed in Half Moon Bay. And so Coast Pride founding board members came to a listening session that was put on by the LGBTQ Commission, and some of the folks there decided to start a nonprofit, Coast Pride, and decided to use that nonprofit to serve not just Half Moon Bay, but Pescadero all the way to Pacifica. And you can see in this picture, this is from Pride this last year in Pacifica, actually, and Jana Rickerson, who's a Pacifica resident, is in the picture. So she's an LGBTQ Commission member right now. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so the first of three program areas that we have at Coast Pride is health and wellness. And within our health and wellness program area, we have our support groups, which is kind of the cornerstone of what we do at Coast Pride. We have support groups for youth, parents and caregivers, little ones and their families, and older adults, which I'll talk a little bit more about when I get into the Pacifica content. And then our next program area is education and visibility. Under education and visibility, we offer trainings, sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression trainings, primarily for teachers and school staff. And then we also, as part of visibility, put on our annual Pride events, which includes Pacifica Pride. And then we also have some movie screenings and special presentations, panel discussions, et cetera, that bring knowledge from the wider LGBTQ community to our community on the coast side. And then the next program area is social justice. And under social justice, we work with mostly schools and school districts to develop sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression policies to protect LGBTQ students. We also support the GSA, or Gender and Sexuality Alliance clubs in the schools. And then the third picture you'll see on here is a bunch of cards that were created for Valentine's Day with our multi-faith partners. So we have 7 faith-based leaders on the coast side that come together on a monthly basis to figure out how to make their congregations more affirming, and also to help us put on events. So at this particular event, the participants made Valentine's cards for the folks living in the local shelter in Half Moon Bay. And there was a trans pastor who did a talk about their experience being trans in their faith community. So getting into Pacifica specifically, I just want to highlight a few people who really made it possible for us to work in Pacifica. So in the middle, we have Mary Beer, who, as we know, is on the council. And after the first Pride event we had in Pacifica, Mary, shortly after the first Pride event we had in Pacifica, Mary joined the board at Coast Pride, and has been an essential part of our organization and really has allowed us to build the relationships to do the work that we do in Pacifica. And then on the right-hand side, or actually I'll start on the left. So on the left we have Lauren Wells, who's also on our board and part of Pacifica, the Pacifica community. And then on the far right, we have Katie, who's one of the owners of Table Wine here in Pacifica. And Katie was really the person who got us going with Pacifica Pride in 2022. So she kept telling one of our other board members, Jenny, that she wanted to have Pride in Pacifica. Why don't we have Pride yet? Why don't we have Pride yet? Why don't we have Pride yet? And so Jenny finally was like, okay, we'll do Pride. We'll make this happen. We hadn't even done it in Half Moon Bay yet or Pescadero. They got jealous. And so Katie and Jenny basically spearheaded Pacifica Pride 2022, and it was just a car parade. And we collaborated with the local Pacifica Girl Scouts troop under the leadership of Virginia, who I'm sure many of you know. They chalked the sidewalks with decorative messages. They even made their own T-shirts. They were all out for the car parade. And then since then, the event has grown. So if you can just kind of scroll through the next few slides as I'm talking about Pride. So these are some local Pacifica residents at one of the parades. In the first year, we just had the car parade. The second year, we had a parade and a festival at Ingrid B. Lacey School with nonprofit tabling and live performances. And then in the third year, this last year, we had the same things, and we added vendors as well at the festival area. And we are, okay, you can pause here, please. Thanks. And we're already starting planning for 2025 Pride in Pacifica. So the Pacifica School District, this is a picture from them at the Pride event in 2023, I believe. Bunch of students walking in the parade, but I wanted to highlight Pacifica School District because they have really become allies of Coast Pride and of their LGBTQ youth over the last few years. There were a couple of little ones, 5, 6 years old, who came out as trans at school in 2022, and the reception was mixed, and it was clear that teachers and school staff wanted to do the right thing, but just didn't have the knowledge and the tools to do it. And the school district really took that to heart and brought Coast Pride in, me and my other co-facilitator who's from Pacifica too, to give trainings to teachers and school staff and really help them feel supported in like, how do I respond when a kid comes out? How do I support the students who are already out or who might come out in the future at my school? So we've really appreciated Pacifica School District for that. And then we've also gotten to do trainings with the parent-teacher organizations. All of the PTOs at the different schools in Pacifica School District got together last spring and hosted a training jointly for parents and caregivers of youth, who, as we know, are the most important people in kids' lives, especially for LGBTQ youth who might be experiencing rejection in a lot of other areas of their lives. So we've got to do another training with PTOs earlier this semester as well. And then finally in the schools, we also provide support to the GSA clubs. So a few of the schools in Pacifica School District have GSA clubs. Terra Nova and Oceana have GSA clubs. These are Gender and Sexuality Alliance clubs. So we come, sometimes we do workshops, sometimes we just share resources. We've done sessions where we've provided, done measurements and provided free gender-affirming garments to youth in the schools. And then going to the next slide, through some work that we were doing in the schools, we got connected with Noah Marsh at Terra Nova High School, who's one of the school social workers there. He's really wonderful. And he realized through the kids that he was working with that there was a need for a space outside of the GSA club that was more specifically for mental health for the trans youth at the school. So I worked with him to start a group just at Terra Nova last year, and then, well, I guess 2 years ago. And then last year we transitioned that club or that group just at Terra Nova into a Pacifica teen group. So that group is now available to all teens 8th grade through 12th grade in Pacifica, and we're hosting it in collaboration with the Pacifica Libraries. So Caroline from the Pacifica Library System hosts it with some of our volunteers at the Sanchez Library, which is super exciting. And we're in the middle of potentially changing the date and time, but that currently happens on Wednesday afternoons. And then if you can skip to the last slide, and then we'll come back to the thank you slide. Can you go to one more? Yeah, okay, cool, thank you. So the last thing I'll touch on is we also have older adult programming, and we found that older adults really preferred having separate groups in Pacifica and Half Moon Bay so that they weren't having to drive, especially at night, from Pacifica down to Half Moon Bay. And so we had a group going for a while at the Pacifica Community Center. That's not happening right now, but we're looking to get it started again in the new year. And then you'll also see the backside of the old school police car. And I want to say that I had a great meeting a couple months ago with folks from the police department, and they're actually starting an LGBTQ liaison program, which is really exciting. So we're really excited to connect with them as well and continue to provide resources and knowledge to the community. Okay, now you can go to the thank you slide. Thanks. These are just, I was looking through pictures from Pacifica for Pride for this presentation, and I kept coming across these adorable dog photos, so I thought I'd share them all with you. But yeah, that's my presentation. I just want to give a big shout out to Tigress, Sue Beckmeyer, Mary Beer. I know you all personally, and just really appreciate your support of Coast Pride and yeah, your like allyship and participation in everything that we've been doing. And when I walked in, I saw the Pacifica Stands United Against Hate and Pacifica Stands United in Love. And there were some hate incidences a couple years ago in Pacifica against pride flags. And like, Mary, you have always pushed the like in love, in love, in love. And I will never forget that about you. And I really appreciate that attitude towards it. So thank you all so much.
Are there comments from the council?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cam, thank you for being, oh, get back up. Yeah. So just so everyone understands, Cam is an amazing coordinator slash director. I don't even know what the title is, but that's what it should be right now. Coast Pride is really lucky to have you, and I'm really lucky to know you and to call you a friend. So thank you so much for being here tonight and for taking care of our young people in Pacifica. So important. So important. And I look forward to partnering with you in different ways with my other hats. And so I have a plan, and I'll be talking to you about that soon. For those of you who don't know, I had to step away from my board position at Coast Pride just to take care of my own health, my mental health, but I do have plans. And I still want to help with Pride. I do want to take a minute and thank the folks from the Economic Development Committee who are so entrenched in Pride and in all the planning. There's a committee, like a subgroup for the Economic Development Committee, which included Brendan and Lauren, yeah. And I want to thank you as well, Sue. Sue is the queen of the parades. And so we could not have done the parade without you.
Queen of the Parades.
When it comes to Pacifica and the services that Coast Pride brings here, I think it's so important for folks to understand that the training that you provide for our teachers and the caregivers is like super important. And I really want to see if we can get that training specifically for our city staff and our electeds and maybe committees and commissions. And so I really want to talk to you about that. I just sprung that. I never talked to the city manager about that, but it would be nice to bring some training to the folks who are up here so that we can also have that knowledge, because the knowledge is so important and it's evolving knowledge, right? So I keep learning all the time, over and over, and that's why it's so important to bring the training as often as we can. And I get to see the young people, specifically at Oceana, who get to benefit from the privacy of trying the clothes on. So we have a closet in the classroom that I get to work in, specifically for young folks to come in and try on clothes that they maybe couldn't try on anywhere else. And so I love that. It's really helpful there. The GSA at Oceana is super strong. And so the board at Coast Pride is full of just amazing people, and the work that you do from Pescadero through Pacifica, it really shines the coast side. It brings us all together, which I don't think we have the opportunity to do all the time, and I think it's really important. I could go on and on, but thank you so much, Cam, for being exactly who you are and exactly what Coast Pride needs.
Thank you, Mary.
I'm going to echo that, and I'm going to also say that as one who works in elementary school in Pacifica, I sense a relaxing and a confidence, and I didn't always have that. It didn't always exist. I've been there a long time, and I know that's because of the work you're doing. I know it is. I think for many in town, these are new concepts. This is something new to accept and bring in and understand and learn about. And I'm proud of our community for mostly doing that. There have been some incidents, we've had some situations, but I think our standing united in love is the answer to that, and it will continue to be. But I had a little pencil cup on my library desk. It was right after our Pride Parade. I had a little flag, and I just stuck it in that pencil thing. And this student came up to me who was, I think in second or third grade. And she was just very comfortable in herself and very, these are my pronouns and da-da-da-da-da. And it was all because, and I didn't think about it. I just had this thing in my purse and put it there and wasn't trying to make a big deal or do a very focused specific thing. But what it got back was this realization that everything we do is signaling and it's letting people know they're accepted and creating an environment of safety. And that for me was just very eye-opening. And it was funny in a weird way because I felt like, oh, of course we're doing that, but didn't even realize that small little gesture, that one little thing made it comfortable for this student, and who knows how many other students. So in any case, in so many ways, I'm grateful to you and look forward to our continuing work. It's meant a lot to me that Pacifica was included, from Pescadero to Pacifica. That's really meant a lot, and I'm grateful to you and to your entire board and the county and everyone for supporting, so thank you.
Thanks, Sue.
Tiger?
Thank you, Cam, for being here. May I have your permission to put you on the spot with an interesting question?
Yeah.
Cool. So on our consent agenda, we'll be talking about 4th of July later, and it occurred to me, we have safe and sane fireworks. So thank you for allowing the community within our community to be safe and seen. So
Yeah.
just wanted to start there. But the question that occurred to me, and I appreciate everything you are doing to normalize human experience is what it boils down to. I remember when my journey broadening my horizon in terms of what other perspectives might be began, how counterintuitive it was to me as a cisgendered male whose pronouns are him, he. And I know that, amongst our cis population, even some of the most well-intentioned of us who are trying to learn new things and be advocates and allies can stumble over pronouns that are counterintuitive to our life experience. So my question for you is, when it comes to they, them, kind of what does it mean to you? How does it feel when we stumble over our tongue trying to figure out what to us is a counterintuitive pronoun, but address it respectfully? And how can we be better allies as we engage with our journey?
Thanks for the question. Yeah, so I'm trying to think of how to answer that succinctly. I think for me, what matters the most is to see that someone is trying to use the pronouns correctly and recognizing when a mistake is made. Because I also trip over myself because I didn't grow up using they, them pronouns for other people either. So it's not like, none of us, most of us did not grow up with it. And so I think the important part is to show that you're trying and that you're thinking about it. And if you do make a mistake, the best practice is to recognize that you made a mistake, say sorry quickly, and then correct yourself and move on. So if you make the mistake, don't make a huge deal out of it. Don't go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I've been trying so hard. It's so hard to learn the new pronouns. Well, then it makes this short thing into a long situation where the person who's been misgendered or you use the wrong pronouns for then has to comfort you for making the mistake, which then turns the attention back to you and extends the situation. So if you just say she did this, sorry, they did X, Y, Z, and then move on in the conversation, then it shows the person that you recognize that you made a mistake, but then you just moved on in the situation so it didn't create an awkward pause. Yeah, and then some recommendations for how to learn or practice that we give in our trainings actually. One is to read books with characters that have they, them pronouns, or even listen to books, because then it helps kind of ingrain that into your mind. Another suggestion is if you have a friend or a loved one who's using different pronouns, even if it's not they, them, maybe they were using she, her, and now they're using he, him, or something like that, practicing with someone else when that person's not there. So making up stories about I went to a picnic with so-and-so and just telling stories about them, so that you just practice using those pronouns but without them there, so you're making the mistakes without doing it in front of them. So those are a couple of, tips.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here, Cam, and for educating us about all that you do. I have not yet been as involved, and I would actually love to have a little training, as Mary suggested. I consider myself an ally. I grew up in the Deep South, and I had friends that were gay then, and I'm 60 years old, so that was a long time ago. But for me, I just never thought about it. They were a person I cared about, and I think I think that's what's missing in a lot of people that we see the bigotry in, and that they don't know the individual, right? And so as much as we can learn to be human and respect and love each other for who we are is so important. Yeah, my first event was at Sunset Ridge after some hate crimes there. And God, I'm getting teary just thinking about it. It was really beautiful. I mean, there was an acknowledgement of what happened, but really it was also a celebration, right? And the kids that were there and, no, this is who we are. This is what we believe in. This is right. And, we're not going to let that win. And that was really beautiful. My question for you is, where does your money come from? What do you need in terms of money and other resources? How can our community help you?
Thanks. Yeah, thank you for asking that. Our money comes partly from individual donors on the coast side, partly from the county of San Mateo. We were just awarded some Measure K funds this year for this year. And we also get funding from a handful of other grants. And where we could use help, mostly in staffing, paying for staff to be able to do what we do. I'm the only employee at Coast Pride right now, so I just went full-time in August because we got the Measure K funds from the county, and we're hopefully going to hire another person in the next few months using the Measure K funds, but really being able to pay people to do the work that we do is a big need for us. And then also with Pacifica specifically, we'd love to have space up here. I was just talking to the chief about that before this, but if there are even just like a room in a building that we can use to be able to have some of the services that we have in Half Moon Bay be more accessible to youth who can't make the trip down to Half Moon Bay. So yeah, I'll just plant those seeds and yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for your question.
Okay. And I too attended the Sunset Ridge, and my picture I looked a little different, but my picture was in the parade. And I've been in the parade twice. Those are minor things compared to what you do all year long. And thank you for everything that you do for everyone and making people feel comfortable in the changes that people are going through, and just acceptance. And I also was talking to Assemblyman Mark Berman, and he came to the first parade, and he walked and danced and wore wings and loved it. So he came back for the second, and he was telling me at Fog Fest that most of the other cities don't have pride parades, and he was really surprised and happy that we had it here because it was really important, and it was a really nice gesture on his part too, to thank you for what you're doing. So thank you. And Mary suggested that maybe the chief can come up and talk a little bit about their program coming forward. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. I
You
really
can
appreciate it.
stay there.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Vaterlas and distinguished council members. It's such a pleasure to speak on behalf of Coast Pride. We met a few months ago and had such a wonderful time together introducing our new LGBTQ liaison officer program. This is a highly trained member of our police department that is going to serve as a point of contact for the LGBTQ plus community. So they have a place and a contact, a familiar person that can make them feel safe to come forward, especially for victims, because so often crimes go unreported because they don't feel comfortable coming forward. And so we want to make sure that they can come to the police department and speak to Detective Susie Cunanan, who is our LGBTQ plus liaison officer. And we're looking forward to growing opportunities together for special events and also to provide training for our staff, city staff, and for members of the police department. So more to follow, and we are so excited.
Thank you. And are there comments from the public? Public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to council. Are there any on the phone? No. Thank you very much for being here tonight.
Thank you, everyone.
you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Okay. Now I'll get the next one right. This is a proclamation of the City of Pacifica in recognition of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, whereas more than 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men and 1 in 2 transgender individuals experience some form of physical or sexual violence and are stalking by their intimate partner in their lifetime. And whereas the marginalization of certain groups in society, including undocumented individuals, transgender individuals, and people living with disabilities, increases their vulnerability to domestic violence. And whereas there were 8,275 requests for service through Community Overcoming Relationship of Abuse, which is CORA, in their 24-hour crisis hotline and law enforcement referrals last year. And 2,378 adults and teens received community education on healthy relationships and the impact of intimate partner abuse. And whereas in San Mateo County, 94 adults and children were provided emergency shelter and 76 households were provided long-term rental assistance to escape their abusers last year. And whereas 485 adults and children received therapy to help them with domestic violence-related trauma, and CORA fielded 1,925 requests for legal assistance. And whereas the City of Pacifica recognized the critical need for citywide services in order to support our residents, and whereas intimate partner violence continues to be among the most underreported crimes in the City of Pacifica, the city is committed to eliminating all forms of intimate partner abuse. Now, therefore, I, Sue Vardalos, on behalf of the City Council of the City of Pacifica and all of its citizens, do hereby proclaim October 2024 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month to raise awareness about and encourage all residents of the City of Pacifica to do their part to help rid our community of intimate partner violence, done this 14th day of October 2024. And Lynn Schutte, would you please like to come to the microphone?
Mayor Vaterlos, Mayor and council members, thank you for inviting us and for acknowledging Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Excuse me. I just want to say how important it is that we recognize this month every October and that you bring us forward to talk about it. I'm going to say 3 times the phone number for anybody who's watching at home or anybody who's here in the audience. CORA's 1-800 phone number. It's 1-800-300-1080. That phone number is staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I'm going to share a little bit about what we do and how we work with the City of Pacifica. As you listen from home, excuse me, I got froggy today. If this sounds familiar, if you're concerned about yourself or somebody you care about, please note that phone number and call us. Don't suffer in silence. We're here for you. We provide everything from that 24-hour hotline to subsidized housing and in between. So we have legal services for people who need things like a protective order to keep that person who's causing harm away from them. We provide mental health services, both individual and group counseling, so that you can talk to a professional, talk through this trauma, or talk with other folks who've gone through what you've gone through and get support for it. And we provide services in our safe house for people who are fleeing and they have nowhere else to go. That is available as well. So those are the intervention services, and those are all accessible by calling our 1-800 number, 1-800-300-1080. If you need us, please call us. The other thing I want to focus on is a bit of prevention and education, because that goes beyond intervention. That's getting to the root of the problem. And I want to acknowledge and thank the City of Pacifica for stepping into that breach with us with the Speak Up program. A lot of businesses that may be watching this are aware that we came out and we talked to a lot of you. Over 200 touches this last year. Over 60 educational presentations to talk about what is domestic violence, what are the red flags, and what can you do about it? And we've gotten feedback. They are so thankful that you all have supported that, because a lot of businesses didn't know what they could do. They had clients, customers who came in and they weren't sure what they were seeing. But after getting the training, they were a little bit more clear and they knew what they could do about it. And they had resources, stickers that they could put up in bathrooms with QR codes. So if somebody was in need of our information, they could just take their smartphone, get that QR code, and get the support. In fact, Cora had their event, annual event this last week, and I was talking to a survivor who came to the event and said, I wish I had known about Cora before, but I went into a bathroom of a local business in this county, and she saw the QR code, and she tapped it, and she was able to access services, and she's now among her peers who understand what she's gone through, and she's making plans for the future. Things are better, things are looking up. We also have a program in the schools. It's a very small but mighty program called YAY, and right after the incident that happened in our city this last year, we were able to get some staff out to the schools, both counselors in our mental health program, excuse me, and folks who were in the EA program. And it was great to be able to provide that service. I'm proud as a Pacifica resident to be able to bring that to our town when our neighbors are in pain. And more than that, we are providing education for the students in the schools so they understand what is a healthy relationship. You know, that boyfriend that's texting you incessantly, that's not necessarily caring for you, that's really stalking. And let's look at what other options you have. So things like that are really great to be able to bring into Pacifica. So it's both intervention that you can access if you're concerned, 1-800-300-1080, and it's prevention, working with folks in our community, the businesses and the kids, to make Pacifica a healthier place, a place where we can be safe in our relationships. So thank you. Thank you for recognizing this month, giving me the opportunity to tell everybody listening here in this audience and at home that we're here for you. Please call us. And thank you for the work that you were able to help us to do in the Speak Up program. So thank you.
Thanks. Who wants to start? Council?
You've rendered our dais speechless. We're people who do nothing but talk incessantly, so well done. Which is to say thank you. And I'm going to start there simply by saying thank you.
Well, if I may, I'm going to thank you for working to get Cora and the program that, the Speak Up program here. That was your leadership, bringing it forward. As a member of a couple of different social civic groups in town, I was so proud when the Lions Club stepped up and and donated to support that program. I frankly wasn't sure it would happen. And not only did it happened like more than what was asked. As it turns out, there are some members of the Lions Club who have experienced domestic violence themselves and their partners. And so that was very close to home. So I'm proud of our community, and I think I would love to hear how we're moving forward with that program. That's what I want to know, because it needs to be repeated. I think we need a schedule or some kind of basis for that. So I do want to make sure that we don't just go one and done, because it's never done. Thank you for your work. Really proud that you're a Pacifican.
Thank you.
I can go. I'm the newest council member here, and I just remember touring your facility last year with the Council of Cities that Amarantz Lee invited us all, and just amazed at all the work that you do and all the resources that you have, and how well your space is designed, that, you know, you have a place for little kids to hang out when their parent is going through counseling and so forth. The things that you've thought through that are just essential for these families in these struggles. I'm going to say the phone number one more time. I after that event, I put your phone number in mine, and fortunately, I haven't had to use it in the last year, but I just checked and it was still there. So everybody else, take out your cell phones. I'm going to read the number one more time. But yeah, thank you for the training, and I'm not sure, I now need to go look in our new bathrooms in our city hall, whether we have stickers there too. So I want to make sure that, you know, all of our city offices and park and rec buildings and public bathrooms have them too. So we might need to bug you for new stickers. So everyone, with your phones, the number again is 1-800-300-1080. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, Lynn. Thank you for coming tonight. I really appreciate you. The work that Cora does is so important, and it hits home with me, and that always makes me sad. But then I feel so grateful that there are agencies like yours that are here to help people who are experiencing things like what I experienced so very long ago. And so it's just really important. And I thank you, and I want to participate in any way that we can, like Councilmember Beckmeyer was saying, moving forward, just so we can keep the ball rolling, because it is continuous education, just like with Coast Pride. So thanks a lot.
And I set up 2 presentations, Realtors in Pacifica and Realtors in San Mateo, and they also donate to Cora. And I did a mayor's office at PCT, a program with your director. And we spent a half an hour talking. So if anybody would like to hear more about Cora in a half an hour's time period, it's on YouTube, and it's the mayor's office, and it was a presentation with Cora. I've learned so much. I would have said the wrong things, done the wrong things, but I learned a lot, how to do it right. So thank you.
Thank you.
And before we do the photo, is there anyone in the audience who would like to say something about this? Okay, I see none. Emily? None. So we'll bring it back to council, but we will take a picture in front.
Can we take one with Cam, too?
Yes.
Where's Cam? Oh, yeah. I lost Cam for a minute.
Okay, moving on, consent calendar. Would anyone on council like to talk about any items or pull any items from the consent agenda?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to pull items 12 and 13, please.
Okay, Michelle? So the items are pulled from consent?
It doesn't have to be, do you want to discuss it, or do you just want to make a statement about it?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I needed to pull it. Well, I'll just, no, okay. I'll just make a statement. I would just like to request that we continue these items. I've been trying to read and study the resolution, and I just need a little bit more time to understand them. And so that's item 12, which is the resolution about the quarry denial. But then also item 13 directly relates to that resolution, so I'd like to request to hold off on that discussion and vote too.
Okay.
Okay,
I don't have a problem with that. Do we need to make a motion for that? Or if,
No, we will just pull that from the agenda, so it will not be discussed tonight.
Got it.
We will bring that back at a later date.
okay.
And Mayor Vaterlas?
Yes.
I do have one correction on a consent item. So item number 13 regarding the 2024 July 4th activities report, make a correction to that item.
You say item number 11?
That's not.
Item number 11.
Item 11.
On packet page 136, the second paragraph should say that all groups completed the necessary hours as required in the Pacifica Municipal Code. The total hours worked this year was 549 hours. And then the sentences that talk about two groups failing to meet the hours following that would then be removed. So that was an inadvertent error in leaving that language in from last year's report. So with that correction, in considering the consent to accept the report as modified according to my statements that I just made.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything else they'd like to discuss on the consent calendar?
I have one question on,
Okay.
on item 11, but maybe we should take public comment first, or did you want me to go ahead and ask?
Go ahead and
Well,
ask your
we-
question.
We should ask the question now.
Okay. So I had asked, because the report is saying that right now we're not recovering enough from the sales of fireworks to cover the additional police and fire. But there was no mention of the amount of money we've billed and collected from citations. And so that amount, I was just trying to total the about $15,000 that we've, correct me if I'm wrong, that we've billed for citations. So my question is how we charge for citations. I know the signs say $1,000, maximum, but do we charge, a smaller amount for the first offense and more if it's a repeat, or are some administrative citations more serious and they'd be immediately, $1,000? I'm just trying to understand how we're collecting those. Hi, Bill.
Hi, good evening,
Hello.
Council.
Go ahead.
Captain Bill Glasgow, Police Department. Very good question. As in years past, our goal has always strategically been cost recovery. Staff has developed a municipal code to enforce the maximum amount of penalty that we are allowed to, and to accomplish this. And unfortunately, right now, the way that the law stipulates is that is the maximum amount, $1,000 citation for the various violations as indicated in the staff report. What sticks out this year specifically is AB AB 1403. It caps the city's ability to generate revenues beyond the 8%. We've collected 8% in years past, but this year, in January of this year, the state capped that and lowered that down to 7%, which resulted in a net loss of about $5,500 to what we would have collected prior years. Also, you'll also noted in the report that we issued about 10 citations less than last year. 10 citations were issued this year compared to the 20 citations last year. We had calls for service that hindered our ability during peak hours to maximally enforce various areas of our community. So that was another factor. Our staff works hard our finance department in recouping those costs. The police department submits the citations the next day. Staff immediately starts reaching out to those violators, and there's a process that goes on that those violators are afforded. There's an appeals process, things of that nature. Some of the monies that are collected for that, the violators have the option to file hardships. So there are several people who filed hardships, and the city's actively trying to recollect some of those monies that have come in. So.
And sorry, I just did my math. So it was 13,400 is what we were told was the total. So that's more than $1,000 per
Yes,
citation.
so there's penalties for those individuals who do not pay on time.
Okay.
So that's where you'll see some of the increased numbers.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions from council on that? Okay, now, but public comment on any items not including the items that are pulled from the agenda, which are 12 and 13. So we do have a card, but it's based on 12 or 13. So that person cannot speak on that. But if anyone.
I'd like to speak on Anza instead.
On, okay.
On what?
The Anza pump station.
Oh, what item on the consent calendar?
I don't have it in front of me, but it's a consent item, the Anza pump station.
Item 4.
Declaration of emergency.
Hold on. Item 4. Here, this is this one.
Oh.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Dan.
Thanks. Over a year ago, the city manager was in our neighborhood with two of you, Tiger Jazz and Ms. Beckmeyer, when we discussed the Anza pump station. And we were told it's all finished, it's all clear, it's all done. It's on the Zoom meeting. More than 4 years ago, it's going to be 5 years in March, the Anza pump station burned down. It's still not fixed. Still not fixed. That neighborhood floods every year. It's going to flood again this year. Sometimes it's 6 feet deep in Anza, you know. What does it take to get that fixed? If you've got to put a ballot measure on to do it, do it. You've got to address that. Is this going to be 8 years? Will it be 8 years that it's on there? This has been on there for 4 years. I thought it was last month when I didn't see it on there. I thought, oh, thank God they fixed it, and nobody knew. But they didn't. It's still on there. How long is it going to take to fix this? It can't be that hard, okay? Everybody down there, every time it rains December, the second week in December, it's going to happen again. The whole area is going to flood. You'll get calls from people whose cars are damaged. We had 1 year when I think 13 cars flooded there in 2014. It's a huge problem. I don't want to say that nothing's being done because you are putting it on the agenda once a month, but other than that, it appears that nothing is being done. Do we need more money to fix it? What needs to be done to fix it? If any of you know, I'd love to hear. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I just noticed I had a minor correction to the minutes that I forgot to bring up
Okay,
earlier.
go ahead.
After public comment?
After oh yeah, we're not done. You're right, sorry.
Sorry. I see no other public comment in the audience and none on the phone.
Oh.
So I'm sorry, this is just for consent agenda.
Right.
Just consent agenda. So I'll bring that back to council. Christine.
Yeah, sorry. So it's on page 38 of the minutes, the very last paragraph about the short-term rental ordinance. And let's see, the third sentence says the TOT before the ordinance, and this is about Half Moon Base, TOT was $218 and is now $505. And those should just read 218,000 and 505,000.
Okay, thank you for the corrections.
That's all.
Okay, thank you.
And anyone else? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Getting to page 61, where toward the end of the staff report, it says staff plans to bring a final project closeout change order to the October 14th City Council meeting regarding the Enza Pump Station, which presumably would be tonight. I don't know that we have a change order in front of us, though, so I thought an update would be pertinent.
Louis.
And I also do want to thank you for the work you did. Was it what's the technical term I'm looking at? I know there was a project on the Anza Aguayo area for the drainage that apparently made it go much smoother during the last
The
storm
equalization
season.
basin?
No, not the EQ
Oh.
basin.
There
it
was
a
a
different
project.
Oh,
culvert. Was it a
Yeah,
culvert?
that was the
Yeah.
Anza Arguella interim storm drainage improvements.
So I'm thinking maybe that had something to do with the better drainage this last rain cycle, which was pretty heinous. But if you could give us an update on the October 14th change order, which doesn't seem to be here.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council members. Louis Sun, Deputy Director of Public Works Wastewater. We had intentions of bringing that change order to the October 14th City Council meeting, but we're still running into some issues with our general contractor. And specifically, just one component of this project is a sump pump. And it's currently damaged, and it needs to be replaced by the general contractor. So we're just waiting for this final piece to be completed. That's why we did not bring the final change order, because we're still waiting on this to be replaced. And the cost of that, it'll be figured into the final change order. And when the time we do have that information, we'll bring this back to City Council. Right now, we're anticipating to have this ready, perhaps the second meeting in November, the November 25th City Council meeting. And staff is anticipating to terminate the local emergency in the only meeting in December.
So we're a sump pump away from victory, and it's on its way.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to hear good news. Okay. Anyone else? Would someone like to make a motion?
I move approval of the consent agenda minus items 12 and 13,
And
as amended with the minutes,
Christine
Oh.
and the city manager.
and the city manager's amendments.
Second.
Thank you.
Please vote.
In the consent calendar, minus items 12 and 13, with item number 2 as amended by Councilmember Bowles and item number 11 amended by City Manager. Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Beckmeyer, seconded by Councilmember Beer, passes unanimously.
Okay. Moving on. Public comment. We have 3 cards for public comment. We have Dan Stedging, Bob O'Donnell, 4, Lila Renero. Go ahead, Dan.
Thank you, council members. I'm going to speak on the pending quarry appeal supplement. Quarry appeal, sorry. In front of you, you have a supplement because I thought this was going to be going through tonight. This is actually the 2010 Pacifica Village Center Draft Environmental Impact Report that I filled out 4 different CPRAs for starting in April 5th of 2024, and actually received it back the day after the Pacifica quarry appeal. So I'm just going to read a couple of things from there. Page 1, 2 prehistoric sites are recorded within the area of potential effect. The former Rockaway Quarry was a significant contributor to the history and development of Pacifica. At the Spanish arrival, this is page 5, occupied Ohlone villages were identified by Spanish chroniclers as Puristac on San Pedro Creek and Tamigtac at Rockaway Beach, likely right on Calera Creek, Milliken, 1983 and 1985. The earliest mention of limestone quarry was in 1776. This history makes the Rockaway Quarry the oldest operating quarry in the state. Page 7, 2 prehistoric archaeological sites are recorded within the project site, CA SMA 162 and 268, and a third just north of Maury Point, SMA 114. This is page 11, very important. Orleans and Schwader recommended that SMA 268, if the site is within the water treatment plant and wetland restoration project area of potential effects, the significance of the site will need to be assessed with reference to the criteria for eligibility to the NRHP, the National Register of Historic Places. Further, we strongly recommend that Environmental Management Office designate this site as an archaeological preservation zone within the Calera Creek project area. Neither of these recommendations appear to have been carried out. End quote. I'm going to go to page 9. The other prehistoric site, SMH 268, is located north of Calera Creek and west of Highway 1. The site was first formally recorded in 1986. But according to newspaper articles, burials were uncovered during construction of Route 1 in 1963. Jaw, skull, arm, leg, and rib bones, along with teeth, were found 2 feet below ground level by on-site workers while digging in the area. Workers found spearheads, arrowheads made of volcanic glass, shell parts, and remains of pottery probably used as cooking utensils. At least 6 and as many as 50 bodies were found buried in an area 100 feet in diameter on the ocean side of Coast Highway. A sinker net considered by Porecki to rank among the best ever found in California was salvaged from the completely damaged site. The sinker net had the actual netting still preserved on it. Oldest quarry in California, best net ever found, 3 different prehistoric sites on the quarry.
Thank you, Dan. Your time's
Thank you.
up. Okay. Bob O'Donnell, followed by Lila Renero and Cliff Lawrence, and then we have others. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Bob O'Donnell, 51-year resident in Pacifica, and I'd like to speak about the short-term rental ordinance. I thank you again, Council, for listening to us in the neighborhoods over the last couple of years and making recommendations to have a new, strong, effective ordinance. I'd like to share a life lesson with you. I was a battalion chief in Daly City Fire Department back in the 1990s. Now it's North County Fire Authority, but we were at a meeting with our city manager and senior staff one day and talking about a council issue that was going to go to the fire department. And I made the mistake of making a recommendation of what the city council should do. Dave Rowe, who's our city manager, immediately came back at me forcefully and said, "You're a member of the city staff. You are to implement policies established by the city council." I didn't have to hear that twice. I learned that lesson very early and very quickly. I speak to you on that issue because now we have the short-term rental ordinance being considered, but it seems to have bogged down. A lot of us in the neighborhoods who've talked to you over the last couple of years have not seen too much action. And we're concerned that the staff and the city council are on the same page in terms of moving forward on this important issue. City council has given clear direction to the staff to implement a strong new ordinance to protect our neighborhoods. And it needs to be done this year. There's a feeling among a lot of us that things are bogging down. It's getting toward the end of the year. It might slip into 2025. Maybe it'll slip beyond that. Maybe it'll just go away. And that's not acceptable to the people that are suffering in the neighborhoods who really need to have action this year. So I encourage you, council, to talk directly with your city staff in a cooperative way. This is not meant to create any sort of division between you, but to work together cooperatively to get this done. It's a very important issue in the neighborhoods. You know that from the previous public hearings. And we encourage you to do this as soon as possible and not to let it slip into next year. With that said, I do thank each of the council members. I thank all of the staff. I know city works on a limited budget and they have many, many demands on you. And I know all of you are trying to work together to do the best thing. But the neighborhoods are counting on you to make this happen. This short-term ordinance needs to be and has to be effectively put into effect as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Lila Renero, Cliff Lawrence, and Peter.
Good evening, council members, staff, and neighbors. I will keep this short and sweet. It's in regards to the short-term rental situation and the updated ordinance. Thanks to all involved for the work done thus far. We're not done yet, and we need to keep up the momentum to get it done. That is all. Thank you for listening, and have a good night.
Thank you.
P.S. The recent road improvements, if I can sneak this in, are very much appreciated. Driving down Grand Avenue now is a dream.
Thank you. Cliff, and then Peter. Cliff?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, staff. Tonight, I just want to make a couple of comments about observations. One of them is I brought up the subject of kind of an out-of-date applications, planning applications list. It's been since June 26, since that's been updated. There are errors in it, which I've listed, including 12 invalid parcel numbers, etc. The organization of it doesn't match, the online doesn't match the downloaded version, etc. There are other issues with other websites and their currency. The last budget was updated. That's on the website right now is 2018. This is just to make the point that people draw inferences from what they see. This is just, we can downplay this and say it's not important. Well, if it wasn't important, we wouldn't have it on the internet. We wouldn't put it out there. The other concern I have is what appears to be to me, just, I'm concerned about staff turnover, particularly high-level staff turnover this year. And I want to raise the question of, does the city have in place an effective and viable exit interview process that could be helpful in trying to learn if there are things that we could do better? So I leave those two observations with you, and one more, since I didn't get my hat on. Today, it was mentioned to me that an election, voting in an election is not so much giving a Valentine as making a chess move. Leave you with that thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter Garanani and Cotta Gomes.
As a proud Italian American, 6 months ago, I prepared a talk and waited till tonight to talk about why we need a day to honor Italian Americans in this town. But I had to put that aside because it appears that the STR progress has stalled. So once again, I've come to thank all the city council members and the staff for their work and talk about why we need immediate action on the ordinance. There's an old joke about dandelions. You give them an inch and they'll take the yard. It's not very funny, but it seems to me it's kind of like the way STRs work. In the beginning, there's a whole bunch of neighbors, and we all have homeowners' rights, and those rights are equal. And then one neighbor turns their property into a hotel, an unregulated, uninspected hotel. And it's a power grab because there's zoning laws that they've now put a commercial property in a residential zone. And they do another power and rights grab because hotels are governed by building codes, fire codes, safety codes. You have to do identification checks. There's OSHA requirements. There's labor relations. But in my STR, I don't have to follow any of that. Power and rights grab. And my neighbors lose their homeowners' rights because I, Peter Garanani, no longer have the quiet enjoyment of my home for 2 years now. I no longer, a New Yorker who's lived in tough neighborhoods, no longer feel safe in my home. I've lost my homeowners' rights. And that power and rights grab extends to all 8 neighbors around the hotel. Now, we're starting to see hotels, STRs, that are rented by the hour. Rented by the hour. Like in the red light district of Amsterdam, or in Times Square in New York City, or the Tenderloin. Now, some of these people say, I'm not using it for a hotel. I'm having bridal parties and corporate events. Well, that's what catering halls and restaurants are for. And those are also regulated. They have to post a certificate of occupancy. They have to post a health inspection that they passed or they have a grade. And you know what else? Power rights and grabs? Poof! Tomorrow my hotel is now a catering hall. Poof! The next day it's going to be a restaurant. Poof! The next day it's a hotel. Let me ask you, can I turn my garage into a medical clinic? Can I stand up on a platform, Air MD, and have people schedule medical procedures in my garage, and then poof, the next day I'm going to turn into an auto body shop? Power and rights grab. And if you dare ask for equality, please, City Council, make it balance fairer. I'm going to get a $9 billion corporation to come in here, bully the process, and try to take away government of the people, by the people, and for the people, and turn it into government of the corporation, by the corporation, and for the corporation. That's the ultimate power grab and rights grab. And then I'm going to cry victim. Hundreds of people have indicated
Thank you, Peter.
we need it
Thank
to be
you,
rebalanced.
Peter, your time's up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Portia Moore. I'd like to speak off the agenda about Indigenous Peoples Day. My name is Kata Gomes, a descendant of the village of Tamigtok along Calera Creek in what is now known as Pacifica. I'd like to talk about the land acknowledgement that the City Council says every evening before their council meetings. And the words are very lovely. It would really be nice if there was direct action that is attached to that, because otherwise it's verbiage and it's not helping us as the caretakers of this land to honor our ancestors who have survived so much trauma, multiple genocides, state-mandated genocide, and the land is unceded. That term means there was no compensation given for that land. The land is stolen. This is stolen property. We were the original caretakers, and we are dedicated to the honoring of our ancestors. And we are here to protect our ancestral homeland, and we will not stop. I've been here at every time in the past year and a half that the Tamigtok Quarry issue has been on the agenda. I come and speak to the public. We're gaining public support. We need to be on the right side of history. It's time for a change. Please honor your words. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no other yellow cards. Anyone else in the audience? Seeing none, how about on the phone?
We have 2 raised hands. The first raised hand is for Cindy Abbott.
Go ahead, Cindy.
Good evening, everyone. Cindy Abbott, West Shore Park. I'm here tonight asking verbally as a follow-up to written requests to receive an update and ongoing updates as to the timing for bringing a new draft ordinance on short-term rentals forward. I recognize it's been a busy time. However, the community deserves to be kept informed about this important work due to the continuing disruption caused by unhosted short-term rentals. City staff stood in front of the Coastal Commission on June 13th of this year to receive their feedback. I've included in my written public comment a transcript of that meeting and their blunt concern with the city having brought forward only a 150 unit cap instead of a moratorium while the city worked on a robust ordinance. The commissioners also clearly expressed how they recognize that the way to ensure we stop the commoditization and commercialization of our coastal housing stock and maintain the residential status of our residential neighborhoods is by putting strong regulations on unhosted rentals in place. And that's what this is about. Some are trying to distract us from the primary focus of this issue by highlighting the bad actors, and that if we had better compliance, we wouldn't have an issue. We do need better compliance. However, we can't lose sight of the fact that our residential neighborhoods and our overall community has been negatively impacted due to unhosted short-term rentals. Every unit of housing that becomes an unhosted short-term rental is a loss to the community. We want our neighbors, families, and community volunteers back. And we need the regulation to happen sooner and later. And we need all restrictions to apply equitably across all neighborhoods. No neighborhood, residential housing, should be considered a tourist district. The 1% cap needs to be applied across the city. Please, members of the City Council, direct staff to expedite the update and to keep the community better informed. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
The next raised hand is for Caitlin Quinn.
Go ahead, Caitlin.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Vaterlaus and esteemed council members and city staff. Apologies for not being there in person, but I've been under the weather. First of all, I really want to thank you guys for the incredible work that you've been doing. You're always doing incredible work, but especially on this STR issue. And I know that you've been doing yeoman's duty on so many big issues, you know, the quarry and the local coastal plan. So I say what I say with full recognition of that and full respect. I, too, am concerned that we seem to have stalled with the STR issue, the new ordinance, and I would just love to get an update on that. And I'm asking if perhaps at the next council meeting, we could get an update from staff of where we are in the drafting of this new ordinance, their conversations with the Coastal Commission. And I'd also love staff updates on the enforcement activity on non-compliant SDRs. We keep hearing that the enforcement activity is ramped up. I'd love to know what that is, not just around SDRs who aren't paying TOT and who aren't permitted, but also around the SDRs that we know are public nuisances. In Pacifica, I live next door to one at 1987 Beach. We know about the one at 400 Belfast. There's apparently one on Farallon Avenue that I know somebody has called the police about several times. So it'd be great if we can get a sense about what's going on with bringing those public nuisance STRs into compliance or permit revocation. And especially this month to know, are they all just getting their permits automatically renewed? So would love to get an update on that, please. And thank you so much for your hard work.
Thank you, Caitlin.
There are no other raised hands.
Okay, seeing no others, we'll bring it back to council. That was council communications. We have a lot of officers here. Can we do it at the end? I know we don't usually do it at the end, but is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. What?
Madam Mayor.
Do you have something important you'd like to say?
We have not done council communications, I feel like, for at least 3 meetings, and while
That's correct.
I really have very little to say, I did want to highlight one brief thing I did.
Okay, go ahead.
Respecting the many, many individuals who keep us safe on a daily basis, and thank you all in this room for doing that. I had occasion to attend the Board of Supervisors meeting in Redwood City. They have a beautiful new place to conduct their business. The reason I was there was because I'd requested a trailhead sign at the top of Fastler, something, one of those kiosk signs where you can put information. And long story short, they budgeted $10,000 of Measure K funding to construct that kiosk sign. Happy to give more detail later, but I did want to let the council know that the county did something for us physically, immediately, should be present in the not-too-distant future.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure we do have time. I've got some important things to communicate just about regional meetings. And hopefully our meeting's not going to last too long tonight, that we can
That
have.
we will get
Yeah.
to the kids.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
and then I know the city manager sent us a little bit of an update on the short-term rentals, but I think it would be good to update the community a little bit too. I understand.
In staff communications are
Yeah.
going to give us an update on the short-term rental ordinance. Okay, so we will do council communications at the end. Thank you, Tiger. And on to staff communications.
Thank you, Mayor Vaterlos, Mayor Pro Tem Beckmeyer, and council members. Kevin Woodhouse, City Manager. One update I did want to provide, I may have misunderstood what one of the public comments was saying, but I want to make it clear that all of the city's budgets are posted on the city's website on the finance page. The fiscal year 24-25 budget is there, and every year's budget, and all of the other related documentation, the ACFR and everything is posted there. So I wanted to point that out. I did want to mention, I may have missed it, but I did want to acknowledge and say that in terms of Coast Pride, that the City Council in this year's budget did allocate a grant of $5,000 for Coast Pride when funding sources were mentioned for Coast Pride. So I wanted to make sure that that's clear for the public as well. In terms of the questions or update on the short-term rental ordinance work, when the council directed on September 9th, I asked very explicitly for the council to be clear about next steps, and the next step was to prepare the summary materials and pursue consultation with the Coastal Commission. We've requested that consultation. They're not available until early November for us to talk with them about that, and in the meantime, we know that one of the questions they're going to have if they do give us much consultation is going to be a lot of data requests to back up the policies. And in previous iterations, such as when we went through the CAP ordinance, they asked a lot of data questions that are time consuming to compile. So in the meantime, we're being diligent and efficient about bringing together all the data we think they might ask about, in the consultation about the policies. As I clearly stated in September 9th, depending on coastal staff's feedback, we'll determine whether we need to come back to another study session with council for further policy direction, or whether we can proceed to start drafting the ordinance to bring that forward for council consideration. And the timeline obviously is undetermined until we get feedback from Coastal Commission staff.
And when did you say that you thought that was likely to occur?
They said they're not available till early November.
Early November.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's it?
If I may?
Yes.
We're losing one of our members of planning staff tonight, are we not? Stephanie Cervantes. I want to thank her deeply for stepping in on short notice when we lost our previous planning director. It's my understanding we have another planning staff member going out for family leave, which is cause for celebration on the other hand, and will tighten the staff workload presumably on the other. And so as we're looking at these really big picture items, some of which were very timing specific, like the quarry reclamation plan and the housing element, which we have barely touched in recent memory, but has a zoning component going on in the background, which presumably will be made more difficult because of our staffing challenges for the moment. And I also understand we may actually have a community development director coming up on the horizon. So yay, when that happens. And that's not to mention the local coastal land use plan, which we've been working on for nigh on a year now. And so I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that there is a lot going on. Would love an update next time around enforcement issues around STRs and how that's looking. You have given updates in the past. I think that you've given us enough that we know that in November is when you'll be talking to Coastal Commission. But I appreciate how much of a load there is and want to acknowledge that right now we truly do have a staffing challenge that we are working through as we're dealing with some elephants we're trying to juggle, let alone identify in the room. Thank you.
I would like to thank Stephanie too, because these were heavy, heavy loads that she carried. The LCLUP, the short-term rentals, the housing element, every one of them is a huge issue. And there were so many this year. And council too, and the rest of staff, because these are really difficult. And sometimes people think, oh, well, you're just putting us aside because you have nothing else to do. We don't. We have massive things to do, and they're all really important, and they will all get done. So, anyone else? Thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah, just echoes. Thank you, Stephanie. You've been just an amazing professional at what you've brought to us, how you've explained things to us, these complicated matters that you've just jumped in that, you know, some staff have been working on for well, Corey, for decades, right? We're really going to miss you. Thank you for your service.
Yeah, I'll echo that as well, Stephanie. Thank you so much. And you're so graceful in how you came in. You know, Christian left, and that was a big thing, and you just pulled right up, and you helped us so much. So I wish you the best, and I thank you.
Thank you very much for all the service that you gave to our community, Stephanie. I know it hasn't been easy, and I'm happy for you. In some ways, it sounds as though you will not be dealing directly with coastal issues, perhaps, moving forward, and that might be a nice blessing for a little bit of time. But truly, you've been an amazing professional and brought with you the knowledge that you had from working in Oceanside, gave it right to us here in Pacifica, and carried us forward through our difficult and ongoing projects with our LCLUP update. And so thank you and wish you well.
Okay. Moving on. We have no public hearings. Our first item for consideration is Pacifica Police Department Militarized Equipment Ordinance and Policy and 2023 Annual Military Equipment Use Report. And we have Chief Maria Sarasua, Sergeant Vincent Romero, and Sergeant Joe Gomez to present the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor Vaterlas, Mayor Pro Tem, and distinguished council members. Maria Sarasua, I have the privilege and honor of serving as your police chief. Joining me this evening is our militarized equipment coordinators that you just introduced. Tonight we will provide you with an overview of our 2023 Annual Military Equipment Report. Government Code Section 7072 requires us to submit an annual militarized equipment report to our governing body and make this report publicly available on our police department website. Our report includes a summary of how our qualifying militarized equipment was utilized the total annual cost of each item, and our intention to acquire new equipment in 2024. Finally, the report includes information on our well-publicized and conveniently located community engagement meeting.
Of the 16 types of qualifying militarized equipment outlined in AB 481, the Pacifica Police Department possesses only 4 items: the less than lethal shotgun, pepper ball launcher, and mobile command trailer and patrol rifles. Of the 4 items, only the mobile command trailer was utilized in 2023. The mobile command trailer serves as a command post during management of large-scale operations. It offers shelter and workspace for our staff and security of our computer systems and communication equipment. The command trailer was utilized at 5 events in 2023. These events included DUI checkpoints, Pacifica Fog Fest weekend, and the 4th of July. There were no reported complaints or violations of policy related to the usage of the mobile command trailer.
Madam City Clerk, slide, please. And one more time, please.
Our militarized equipment inventory also includes the qualifying equipment owned by the San Bruno Police Department and Daly City Police Department. We work in collaboration with these agencies when requesting mutual aid for exigency circumstances. In 2023, our public safety services were enhanced using unmanned aerial systems owned by the San Bruno and Daly City Police Departments. We utilized these assets during 4 incidents in 2023. The first incident occurred on January 19, 2023. Pacifica PD officers responded to Esplanade Beach on a report of a subject in distress in the water. The subject was swept into the ocean by a large wave. Officers immediately requested assistance from San Bruno PD, who responded and deployed their unmanned aerial system to search the extensive beach area. The second incident, on January 20, 2023, Pacifica PD requested San Bruno PD to deploy their unmanned aerial system to assist in a search for a missing suicidal person in the Rockaway Beach area. The individual threatened to harm himself by jumping off a cliff. The unmanned aerial system was utilized to search a large portion of the coastline, Bluff, and Lindemar Beach.
May I ask a question while you're giving the presentation, or would you rather I wait till the end?
Can you please repeat your question?
May I ask a question while you're giving the presentation, or shall I wait till the end?
Any time is fine, thank you.
As I'm looking at this, how long did it take from Daly City and San Bruno to have their equipment reach us as we were trying to save lives along our coast?
We don't have the response times readily available, but we can research that for you.
Appreciate that. Do you happen to have a ballpark?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you.
The third incident occurred on April 10, 2023. Pacifica PD officers responded to a residence regarding a violent individual with an outstanding felony arrest warrant inside the residence. Officers established a perimeter and requested mutual aid from San Bruno PD, who responded and deployed their unmanned aerial system for scene security and overwatch. The final incident occurred on December 21, 2023. A homicide occurred in the city of Pacifica. The suspect fled the area on foot after stabbing 2 victims. There was an immediate concern for public safety due to the close proximity of an elementary school and nearby homes. Daly City PD responded and deployed their unmanned aerial system to assist in searching for the outstanding suspect.
For the past several years, the Pacifica Police Department has utilized unmanned aerial systems from allied public safety agencies in San Mateo County. Due to the high demand of unmanned aerial systems in their own jurisdictions, UAS technology is not always available to serve Pacifica residents, and response times can be delayed. Historically, our police department has relied on CHP or Coast Guard helicopters for aerial surveillance. While effective, helicopters pose logistical challenges. They are expensive to operate, require significant coordination, and cannot always be deployed swiftly. Recognizing these limitations, the Pacifica Police Department seeks to acquire unmanned aerial systems as a more efficient and cost-effective solution.
Unmanned aerial system technology provides real-time public safety information to better make informed decisions during emergency search and rescue operations, calls for service, and criminal investigations. Unmanned aerial systems will enhance situational awareness by providing a bird's-eye view, enabling officers to assess potential risk and gather valuable information before engaging suspects or rushing into volatile situations. This proactive approach will create time and distance to de-escalate dangerous situations and exhaust all reasonable alternatives before engaging with a suspect or an individual experiencing a mental health crisis. Reducing the likelihood for a use of force encounter will be impactful to the overall safety of the community, police officers, and police canines. Unmanned aerial systems will also meticulously document crime scenes and accident sites, further enhancing our investigations and operational effectiveness. We intend to acquire the DJI Matrice 30T and the DJI Mavic 3T as the unmanned aerial system technology that best serves the public safety needs of Pacifica. The benefit of these systems will be extended flight times or flight operations, weather-resistant image sensors, and the capability of delivering a personal flotation device during water rescue operations. Additionally, the operator will have the ability to communicate to individuals through a speaker, which will be critical to communicate with hikers or swimmers in distress.
Pacifica PD Policy 606 contains comprehensive guidelines for the use of unmanned aerial systems by the Pacifica Police Department. The policy includes specific language regarding constitutional and privacy rights. The FAA regulations authorize and prohibited uses, program coordinator responsibilities, and data collection, retention, and sharing. The policy includes recommended guidelines from the ACLU and Pacifica Social Justice regarding prohibited uses. Adopted recommendations include not utilizing unmanned aerial systems for routine patrols or monitoring mass gatherings where no security concerns exist. Additionally, unmanned aerial systems will not be equipped with facial recognition software or be weaponized. Authorized operators must obtain a remote pilot certified through the Federal Aviation Administration under Part 107 rules and complete the required training. Any unauthorized use of unmanned aerial systems will be in strict accordance with constitutional and privacy rights and Federal Aviation Administration regulations. Authorized personnel will consider the protection of individual civil rights and the reasonable expectations of privacy as a key component of any decision made to deploy unmanned aerial systems. Absent a warrant or exigent circumstance, operators will not intentionally record or transmit images of any location where a person would have a reasonable expectation of privacy.
To promote the ethical use of UAS technology in Pacifica, the police department will provide a public-facing transparency portal, a dashboard on the police department website to share our UAS flight logs. The logs will include the date, case number, duration of flight, location, and the reason for the flight. We are committed to promoting transparency and accountability in the use of unmanned aerial systems, and we look forward to sharing the positive public safety outcomes with our community. The police department intends to procure 2 unmanned aerial systems with funds acquired through the Department of Justice COPS Technology and Equipment Grant. The total costs for entering a 5-year contract with Axon for 2 unmanned aerial systems, accessories, training, Axon Air system, and associated required licenses will cost approximately $61,000. When deciding how to employ UAS technology in Pacifica, the police department conducted extensive background research. We hosted listening sessions with a diverse cross-section of the community. These groups included Pacifica Social Justice, the Chiefs Advisory Panel, school district officials, neighborhood watch groups, Community Police Academy participants, and the Pacifica Chamber of Commerce. In August, the department hosted a coffee with a cop at Lindmar Starbucks and visited numerous parties during National Night Out to engage in conversation with the community about this technology. Our recommended action this evening is the renewal of the acquisition and use of military equipment ordinance and the approval of the 2023 Annual Military Equipment Use Report. We are happy to answer any questions from council.
Okay, questions from council?
I know the funding source for purchasing the unmanned aerial device. Is that right? Devices would, system, thank you, would be the technology grant program. Would that cover the entire cost, or would we need to match that or add funds to?
It would cover the entire cost.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you presenting this to the Emergency Preparedness and Safety Commission recently too. And one of the things that was mentioned was actually, besides the cost, which is already covered, this technology could really save police staff time also. And I just thought you might want to talk to that a little bit and how you see it helping your efficiency, knowing that, you're stretched then as a force, right, in terms of staffing.
In many ways, public safety technology can serve as a force multiplier. I think it's going to increase our operational efficiency and effectiveness and also enhance our investigations. We're very excited about the opportunity to be able to have crime scene mapping and also accident investigation mapping, and also the usefulness in search and rescue operations.
Thank you.
And I think what Tiger was getting at earlier was if we had our own, it would take way less time than trying to get something coming from Daly City or San Bruno or some other jurisdiction. Correct?
That's about where I was going with that, yeah.
Yeah, I got that.
I don't have any questions, but I do have comments. Can we go to public comments? I can.
Okay, do you have questions? No? So we will go to public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on this issue? Seeing none in the audience, is there anyone on the phone? And no one on the phone. I'll bring it back to council for your comments.
Thank you so much for your presentation, and thank you all the officers that are here tonight. Thank you so much for being here. It's good to see all of your faces. Thank you for all the service that you provide for our city for so many years. Yeah, just my gratitude. And I think if there's one thing that I've come to appreciate and expect from our new chief is a really thorough, professional presentation. And your transparency it's refreshing. So thank you so much for always being so professional and bringing us all the information that we need and applying for grants to pay for things. Like, you're doing all the work. So thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay.
I remember when we first passed this several years back, and then Chief Steidel was kind enough to give me a tour of everything going on. I can't remember if he specifically gave it to me or if it was Captain Clements or Glasgow. It was a long time ago, and I apologize if I'm wrong. But I remember taking the tour and seeing the equipment, and there was one slide with the command center, which is a trailer from which you can run what you need to do to keep us safe. It needs a little bit of paint, it looked like, in one of the rusty portions, so I just wanted to bring that to your attention. But otherwise, during Fog Fest, you have a center out of which you can operate in the middle of the public. And after observing the equipment, really took exception to that terminology, military equipment. And I feel like when that legislation was passed, it was probably specifically to bring scrutiny to what kind of equipment is being utilized in any given community. But it doesn't quite seem to fit, at least with the equipment we regularly use in our community. And that follows through to today, where we have unmanned aerial systems, drones, that at least half the time we're using to look for people whom we're trying to save their life. And yeah, how long does that take if we have to call from over the hill in order to, thank goodness, they're willing to bring their equipment down to us, but what are the odds of losing a life in between, let alone some of the tragedies we've suffered? So that's one thing. Another thing is thank you for the community outreach you've done. I remember when we first heard this, and there was a lot of community concern. I contend specifically because of the nomenclature around the legislation used, but regardless, I think anything police-related is liable to garner heightened public scrutiny because of the nature of your business and wanting to make sure that our public really is protected in the right ways. For some of us, that means any tool you need, please get it now. For others of us, that means we want to make sure we double-check those tools to make sure. Whichever side of the camp the community may fall on, you seem to have done your due diligence to ensure that it has been explained to the satisfaction of everybody who did not show up tonight to make comments. And I really want to thank you for the work you've done on that and that the department's done in that. So thank you, and last but not least, again, thank you for up to and including putting your lives on the line so that our community can be safe, and doing so in such a fashion that we can regard you all as members of our community rather than those guys patrolling over there. You are members of our community, and thank you for being those members who take a heightened interest in keeping us all safe. Thank you.
You? Go ahead.
No, ready to make a motion if,
Okay.
unless there's other.
Go ahead.
Woo-hoo-hoo. I don't usually do that. But thank you, Chief and officers, for all your work on this. I move that we waive the first reading and introduce by title an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Pacifica repealing and replacing Chapter 19, Acquisition and Use of Military Equipment, of Title 4, Public Safety of the Pacifica Municipal Code, renewing the military equipment policy, and 2, approve the Pacifica Police Department 2023 Annual Military Equipment Use Report.
I will second.
Please vote.
And the motion made by Councilmember Bowles and seconded by Councilmember Big Stick on item number 14. The vote passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, do you guys want to take a break? Or just one, how about we come back, we're going to take a break, we're going to come back at 9, which is 7 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.
Sure. So, Mayor and council members, the city has recruited applicants for the following committees and commissions: the Economic Development Committee, the Emergency Preparedness and Safety Commission, the Library Advisory Committee, and the Open Space and Parkland Advisory Committee, due to vacancies and terms that are expiring in October 2024. On the Economic Development Committee, there are 3 positions, each for a full 4-year term to expire October 2028. For the Emergency Preparedness and Safety Commission, we are recruiting for 2 positions, each for full 4-year terms to expire October 2028. For the Library Advisory Committee, we recruited for 2 at-large voting positions on this committee for a term length to be specified by council with the terminating month of October. these positions on the Library Advisory Committee were for the 2 youth members that were appointed for a 1-year term. For the Open Space and Parkland Advisory Committee, we recruited for 1 partial term to expire May 2028 due to a vacancy. Recruitment notices were posted on the city's website, published in the San Mateo Daily Journal, and included in the city's weekly Connect with Pacifica e-newsletter, and also on the city's social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Nextdoor accounts. While the positions for the Library Advisory Committee are for 2 youth with expiring terms, the positions are for at-large members, so it's not necessary that this council appoint a youth member to those positions, although the council may choose to do so. The application deadline was extended from September 13th to September 20th and then September 30th. At that time, the city received 6 timely applications for the Economic Development Committee, 2 timely applications for the Emergency Preparedness and Safety Commission, 10 timely applications for the Library Advisory Committee, and 3 timely applications for the Open Space and Parkland Advisory Committee. 1 applicant for the Economic Development Committee subsequently withdrew their application, and 1 applicant indicated that they had marked interest in Economic Development Committee mistakenly, resulting in 4 eligible applicants for consideration for the Economic Development Committee. Some applicants on their applications indicated interest in multiple committee and commission recruitments. So you'll find those listed under each of the committee commissions that they marked interest in. The Pacifica Municipal Code sets forth guidelines for city committee commission membership eligibility as follows. Membership on the commissions provided for in the chapter shall represent a broad cross-section of the entire community. To be eligible for appointment to any commission or committee, a person shall be a qualified elector of the city except for the following persons. Members who are under the age of 18 at the time of their appointment, provided, however, they shall be residents of the city. And members of committees who are not qualified electors or residents of the city, but who may be appointed by the council where they are deemed to be able to provide expertise, or where there may be representative of a section of the community, for example, commercial. Applicant interviews were conducted by City Council at a special City Council meeting held on October 7th. The list of the applicants for each under consideration are included in the agenda packet, and I can bring those up for reference. The council will now deliberate as to the candidates that they would support to nominate for appointments to each of the committee or commission seats. For the council should make a formal motion to appoint named applicants to each committee commission. Each formal motion should specify which named individuals are nominated for full terms or partial terms if there are differing terms. For the Library Advisory Committee, the council should specify the named individuals and also the desired term duration. With that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So my question's kind of a 2-parter. And I'll begin with the folksy anecdotal part and go into the question. And I was at the store, and one of the youth LAC members was telling me that her term was almost up, and I knew that we were having recruitments and that we'd therefore be doing interviews in the not-too-distant future. And this was a youth LAC member who was relating to me that she wasn't going to be applying again. And so I kind of went into this interview process expecting, okay, cool, we'll be interviewing a couple or for a couple more youth spots on the Library Advisory Committee. The implication being in my head, what I thought we had directed was 2 spots will be youth spots, and then I was reminded of some history. and recalled the way we did it in such a fashion to kind of leave it open-ended rather than have it more solidified. So I kind of had to be reminded of that when the time came, because I was looking forward to kind of a clean cut, appointing a couple youth people, hopefully. And it wound up being that we had quite a few applicants that were not youth. And some of them were quite good. I'll deliberate later as to my opinion, which way it should go, but I wanted to ask if my understanding is correct. I guess maybe if you could give us a more clinical version of why it is that it was more at-large than just youth-specific. If this is a proper venue to solidify those two spots as youth now, or if later we need to do that, or how that would work if we were going to. And then I have a part 2 to this question when you're done with that part.
So in, in 2023, the City Council adopted a resolution to update the charter of the Library Advisory Committee. This was done in June 26, 2023. At that time, the City Council determined that the Library Advisory Committee would be comprised of 7 to 9 at-large community members from a broad cross-section of the community, which could include youth members. After that update to the Library Advisory Committee charter, the city initiated recruitments for the at-large members. The City Council then took action to appoint 7 members from the at-large community. The City Council at that time directed then subsequently to do a subsequent recruitment targeted for youth members for the additional 2, up to 2 at-large positions on the committee. So the first round of recruitments was completed in September 2023, and then the targeted youth recruitment resulted in 2 youth appointed to the at-large seats for a 1-year term to expire in October of this year. So that's the history, and there are not designated youth positions on the committee, although 2 youth were appointed to at-large positions. So when it came time for the recruitment this time, although we did do some outreach for recruitment to schools and which generated youth interest, we did not limit the recruitment only to youth because they are at-large community member positions. And that's why there was a mix of applicants that were youth and also over the age of 18. At this time, this agenda item does not encompass making changes to that resolution or charter for the composition of the type of positions on the Library Advisory Committee. The council could direct staff to bring that back if you wish to revisit the composition of the types of positions on the Library Advisory Committee. But at this time, the council action would be to select at your discretion and who you presume to want to compose the membership. It is open to selecting 2 youth again, and then also this is a 7 to 9 member committee, so you may choose to appoint up to 2 applicants.
Okay, thank you. And when we get to deliberation, I certainly would favor a discussion around giving that agenda or that direction to bring it back to solidify those positions if it's the will of the council. The part 2 to my question, however, I mean, 5 of the folks who applied for Library Advisory Committee out of 10. It was a lot of interested folk, which is great because that means that our community is interested in all things library, which is really good news. But 5 of them were youth folks, and not only were 5 of them youth, but a number of them actually indicated that they'd be interested in other committee and commissions, which was the other thing that was unexpected to me, but kind of delighted me personally, because I kind of think that every committee commission probably should have at least one youth member to give that perspective, which I think largely is missing. Again, another conversation for deliberation. But my question to you is, given that we have varying youth candidates who are interested in spots that are not just LAC, are we within our purview to appoint youth members to other committees and commissions, not just LAC, Library Advisory Committee?
Yes, my understanding of the other committees and commissions is that no commission currently designates specifically a youth member. But the Pacifica Municipal Code Section 2-2.103B states that members who are under the age of 18 years at the time of their appointment, provided they're residents of the city, may be appointed to any committee or commission.
And they'd be a fully voting member should they be appointed?
That's correct.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Any other questions? I'm loud. Any other questions? Okay, then we'll begin
With public comment?
with public comment. Anyone from the public like to comment? Is there anyone on the phone? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to council.
I would recommend appointing committee by committee and starting with emergency preparedness, just because it seems so cut and dry. Get out of the way and then go from there.
I agree.
I did want to ask one question about the youth to all of you too, because I know when we talked about the 2 positions on the library, it was like helpful to have 2, or they could sort of be backup to each other. We obviously don't have 2 youth applicants for other committees, and some of those are smaller, and maybe that's, too impactful. I don't know. So, I mean, I'm asking Mary in particular, I mean, do you see a problem with appointing one youth who is the only youth voice?
I do.
You do? Okay.
I quite frankly, I would rather have them be in pairs. I think it's more beneficial for them as young people to have another young person with them. That's my opinion about that.
And even though the various committees, commissions are presumably a little smaller than LAC.
It doesn't matter the size.
Okay.
I don't know what you think about that, Councilmember Beckmeyer.
Well, in terms of, and Sarah, feel free to weigh in because we're both at the LAC meetings. I can't speak for, of course, how they feel.
Right.
Right? But I can only think about what I'm observing, and it didn't seem like there was a lot of specific interaction between the 2 youth members, any more than there was interaction with other members of the committee or with the consultants that we're working with from Berg Davis. So in a lot of ways, you wouldn't have known that they were youth members per se.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's good.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what I mean to say. Do you have any observations on that, Sarah? I mean, you interact with them in a little bit different way too.
I agree with your interpretation, Mayor Pro Tem Beckmeyer, that I don't think that the youth members per se interact with each other all that much on the commission or committee any more than they would with other members and the consultants. I think that for the youth members, they may need some more support from staff and/or other members to invite their opinions at first until they become more comfortable voicing their important perspectives.
Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, so Tiger did bring up emergency preparedness.
I'll be happy to move that we appoint Deborah Johnson and Bonnie Miller to the 2 full 4-year terms to expire October 2028 for Emergency Preparedness and Safety Commission.
I'll second that.
Please vote.
And the motion to appoint Deborah Johnson and Bonnie Miller to the full 4-year terms to Emergency Preparedness and Safety Commission. Motion made by Councilmember Big Stick and seconded by Councilmember Bowles passes unanimously.
I'd like to suggest that we move to Library Advisory Committee next. We had, as Councilmember Big Stick stated, we had a bunch of applicants. And I'll admit to being a little confused initially in the process myself.
Yeah.
Because I kept looking at Mary going, didn't we have different questions for youth applicants? You know, so I know I came into this with a very, as I saw the number of youth applicants that we had, I was thinking, and then when we asked Sarah for clarification, I was like, oh, right, because we assigned a 1-year term to these positions when we appointed a year ago, which is why they became available at this point. I will say, in my mind, they're youth positions. I mean, I didn't, while technically, and I appreciated the technical explanation, that they are in fact at-large positions because we haven't changed the charter, asked staff to bring that back. And it was really kind of an experiment, I guess, I would say. But it was based on, and this is what I'm coming back to, it was based on a recognition that youth voices and youth input is something that we missed in our endeavors with our library bond in 2016. I can definitely say, as I look back, that was a misstep.
Yeah.
It's something I wish we would have recognized at that time, but now that we know it, and after hearing the input that I've heard, and seeing the interaction between the youth members and the rest of the members of LAC, I really see the value of having the youth positions. So I agree with you on deliberation and, you know, future direction. We need to address that before we leave tonight. With regard to the charter for the LAC, but from my point of view, as strong a bunch of candidates as we had this go round, I do personally favor focusing on youth at this juncture.
And would you determine them to go a full term or a year's term again?
I was thinking another year, but I'm not sure if that's, I mean, I'd like to hear what everyone else thinks too. We did have applicants as young as freshmen in high school, very poised and very prepared to serve. So in some ways, I think we thought, again, what do we know? But we thought a year, oh, they won't, you know, they have too many activities and they won't want to do it for longer than a year. I'm open to that discussion. I think I was leaning toward a year and specifying that, but I'd like to hear what everyone else thinks about that.
I really appreciate that, Councilmember Beckmeyer, because I also felt like these needed to be the youth seats. And the adults that came in were so strong, like super strong.
Like an award-winning librarian. I mean, geez, yeah.
So it's my hopes that the next round, when the next round of interviews comes around, is that they'll come back. But in my opinion, these should be the youth seats. And I think that I can go either for a year or 2 years.
Councilmember Beer, would you be in agreement that staff might bring back that minor charter amendment to solidify that these 2 seats are youth seats, so that next time we don't have the mixed composition?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
If I can make one comment. What I'm remembering from that conversation, this was the newly formed LAC, and part of the problem with the Library Advisory Committee previously was I think we had quorum, but I mean, there were various issues, COVID and such that interrupted things. But I seem to remember part of the conversation about whether it should definitely be youth designated or not was sort of, well, we don't know yet until we do the recruitment how many youth are going to be interested, and then you could end up with, if they were specifically designated as youth and we didn't get applicants, then you risk the quorum issue or others. So that might have been part of the conversation. I think we see now, observing, there's a lot of interest.
Yes.
So that's great. And there might be some creative way in revising the resolution to sort of give priority to youth. And then if you had an application phase and there wasn't youth that had applied, then they could be filled otherwise. But anyways, we don't have to talk about that tonight. We can bring that back when we do. But
Right, and I know my specific concern was that there were both pools applying, and I really just wanted to see the one pool because then it gets kind of murky.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm advocating for bringing it back as a slight change one way or the other so that we have that clarity the next time we have the recruitment process.
And is the 1 year, I mean, that was what we had agreed to then too, right? So is that even something we could discuss changing now or not?
Well, we can discuss how long we're going to appoint the ones tonight. And so for the sake of tonight's conversation, given that we had one youth who reapplied and one who did not, I think that speaks to 1 year maybe being the right amount. I think that at that age, I don't know that it's reasonable to ask a 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old to think 2 years down the road. Yeah. But I think that 1 year is reasonable, and I think that that somebody reapplied shows that they wish for that opportunity.
Right. And all that interview experience is good for them too. So
right?
To come back.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Mm-hmm.
Are we largely in agreement then that it should be youth? Does anybody want to? Okay.
Yes.
We're in agreement.
I think so. I mean, I agree with you, Christine. We had some super strong, amazing candidates.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to reach out to them personally and not just say you weren't chosen, but this is why you weren't chosen, and please, please, please reapply.
Right.
Yes.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
So with that, I would be willing to propose Maya Sinapoulos. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. And Kathleen Johnson as youth applicants or youth appointees for Library Advisory Committee.
I'd be inclined to second that motion, but I don't know if we want discussion or if we want to go down the line with everybody giving their.
Oh, right. I remember we talked about that last time, didn't we? That we wanted to go.
So, Mayor, what process do you favor?
Let's go down the line.
Okay.
And we know where you stand and you. I'll go to the end. Christine?
And I mean, I was going to say, I feel like I should say something why, but I was going to say Kathleen and Kyra, and it's not that I don't like Myra. I think I thought she was amazing, and she's obviously served for a year, but she's now no longer in Pacifica schools. And so, I'm just questioning whether that connection is important in this youth position.
I don't think she was in Pacifica schools when we appointed her last year.
I don't think so either.
Okay,
No.
maybe I didn't remember.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
No.
I hear 3 for Kathleen. What was the other one you recommended?
I also like Kyra. Kyrie Chen?
Kyrie.
Oh, Kyrie Chen.
I mean, how can you not like them all?
I know,
know.
that's so
Right.
hard, right?
We had the most amazing young people and adults come out. Yeah, so thank you, everyone who applied. I definitely would like to see Maya come back. I think that continuity is super important for the committee and for her.
I agree.
That experience is really important. And then I have all these little comments. Lovely, yes. Like all these stars.
I know, me too.
And originally I had thought Celine. But I can go with Kathleen too.
Okay. And I agree with Maya, but I can also go with Kathleen. So would we, so that was Sue made a motion, Tiger seconded, we discussed. Time to vote?
And are we specifying in the motion the
Oh,
term as well?
Yes, we need to
Oh, 1
specify
year?
duration.
So for a term of 1 year?
1 year?
Agreed.
Okay, that's
Everyone?
my motion, and you second. Okay.
And with the motion to appoint Kathleen Renfro Johnson and Maya Sinapuelas for a 1-year term to expire October 2025, made by Mayor Pro Tem Beckmeyer and seconded by Councilmember Big Stick, passes unanimously.
And this was an amazing group of people, and so happy that we got to interview everyone. And I know we made certain changes, so please apply again, really apply
I
again.
mean, like adult or youth, we had to choose 2 out of 10. And
Right.
there were a lot of rock stars in that group.
There were.
So please, please, please apply again.
Yeah,
Please.
definitely.
Okay, moving on.
EDC?
Let's go to EDC.
All right.
So this is where and I'm going to ultimately defer to your EDC experience, Sue and Mary, but this was where one of the youth applied for EDC, and that, given we had 5 youth applying to LAC, thought, well, it might be that we have opportunities now, since there are a couple of boards where youth also applied to those boards also. Perhaps we could, as we just experimented for a year with LAC, see if we might experiment for a year with EDC, if not OSPAC.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was thinking the same thing, although I want to double check about the terms, because with the Library Advisory Committee, it was very clear that we could designate the term, and I wonder if we have that same leeway if we think we need to, because these other committee positions, while I see youth, I would like to suggest, at the present, they're 3-year terms, I think.
4-year.
4-year terms.
One's a partial on OSPAC, right? Isn't that right?
Right, I was just looking at EDC, I apologize.
Okay.
EDC,
But even the partial OSPAC term looks like it's tantamount to a 4-year term.
Right. May 28, I think Sarah said? Yeah.
That's correct, May of 2028
Yeah,
for OSPAC.
that is. So my question is, can we change that?
My guess is we can't change that. That's probably a charter, but change to the committee. But you could appoint someone into a 4-year term, and if they can't or are not interested in living out the full 4-year term, then they would resign after a year or 2 or whatever.
Right. And we've
fits.
seen that happen, and I thought about that, yeah. Thank you for voicing that. So,
Mary doesn't seem comfortable with that, so I will encourage you to speak.
I mean, we weren't going to give them a longer term on LAC and we're going to throw them into EDC. Like, I don't know.
Honestly, I hadn't even thought about it because it didn't occur to me that we have prescribed terms for all the other ones, because we were so meticulous about how we crafted them for. I feel like if we come to the conclusion it would be wise to include the youth vote and try it, we could be very clear with them that, hey, this is yours by right, and if you feel like you can't do it for the full 4 years, it is not uncommon for folks to abdicate their term before that full 4 years is up. And in the meantime, depending on how it goes, that could be another opportunity to amend the charter to allow for a flex seat if we find that we like that we have youth.
Yeah, I'm having attended my first EDC meeting not too long ago. Like I see how much each of those members are working, and I'm hesitant to say that a youth member could sustain that kind of involvement. That's a lot of pressure to put on them, and it's also perhaps something that would take away from the work that's needed. I don't know that it is. It really depends on the person, but to say that you're giving them a 3-year term and then, if it's not really working out, is there a way to suggest that they, that just is really awkward too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I know in the charter there is, usually it's for cause though. It's like, isn't it?
No, it's
Like you don't show up?
no. All appointments are at the discretion of the council, so there's no findings needed, but it would have to be an agendized item to remove them from that committee or
And
commission.
that would be so awful to have to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I am aware that in certain instances, and I ultimately defer to Councilmember Beckmeyer as the longest serving liaison to EDC, and where she feels like it may or may not work. I'm
Sue.
just suggesting that you serve longer than
Yes.
even Mary has on
Yes.
EDC.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You used to serve with Mike.
Couple
right.
years, yeah, maybe
I,
3 more.
I would go to council,
Forgot about that.
work my 5 a.m. shift, and then fall asleep to you and Mike
Oh,
at
thanks
EDC.
a lot. Well, here's what I was about to say.
Because
Thank
of
you.
the all-night council meeting in the 5 a.m. shift. Mike
Not
O'Neill
because
is
of what-
not snooze-worthy, and neither are you.
Thank you. Well, all right, thank you for saying that. Then I would like to share some perspectives with regard to EDC. First, I would like to say that there was a candidate the last time or a recent time that we appointed who brought a fresh perspective with regard to measurement and with regard to, asking hard questions about, yeah, but how do you know if you're doing that? If you're not measuring it? What is your, there would be these continual bringing the group back to this notion of how do you know if you're accomplishing that or not? And it was, frankly, to the bristling displeasure of some of the other members, I think, because it's a new way of thinking that they hadn't been thinking about. And I've personally, I think we maybe talked about it or brought it up when we appointed that person last time around. And so I would like to see that continue. And so with that stated, I would also like to say that I had an interest in there being a youth person included in this committee. And I remember, I forgot who I was talking to, and they said, well, yeah, but youth, do they really have an interest in business? And I said, well, we just had a business event for youth who have businesses, who are actually running businesses of their own. So, I don't know if you ask them, do you have an interest in this or not, how they would respond, but I think the fact that they actually have businesses is an indicator of an opportunity there. And I think it would be useful. So that was interesting for me. And then the other piece that I've been rolling around, because I'm always, going, what do we need? What do we need to round out a committee? And one of the things that's lingered and been brought up for many years, all the way back to Sue Degree really being on council, has been this idea about how much of our environment is our economy, or where are there overlaps between environmental and outdoor and recreational interests and business or economy in Pacifica. So from that point of view, I thought about maybe having Lawrence be part of EDC. I think he applied for it once before. I know he applied for a few things in the past, and we always say, apply again, apply again. And so I was thinking about Ed, Lawrence, and Kyrie as applicant, or as a point, whatever I want to call it.
I thought Kyrie actually took her name off. Maybe Sarah can confirm that.
I believe that was Luke.
I mean, Luke made it very clear that he was not interested in.
Yeah.
Right.
I definitely crossed out Luke. I thought Kyrie was still interested, but maybe I missed that.
And when we interviewed him, he specifically seemed to be interested in economic development.
Wait, can Sarah answer the question? Which member?
The only member that I'm aware of that specifically stated to me that marked EDC mistakenly was Luke's son.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he
Yeah.
was removed from this applicant list.
And my notes, in Kyrie's notes, says is interested in EDC and economics.
To one of Councilmember Bowles' earlier points that the best way to do it isn't to have to agendize it to remove somebody, what I can tell you anecdotally is that I've been on, in at least one instance, as a liaison to a committee or a commission, a member was encouraged to utilize their talents in a different fashion, in a successful manner where nobody's feelings were hurt about it whatsoever, and it never made its way to the council dais. So for whatever that's worth to you.
I know we haven't had this conversation with EDC about youth members, and I think it would be important for, I don't know, city manager or someone to talk to, like, the staff member who's overseeing EDC, preparing for a youth member to come, and what that could look like, and how to care for a youth member in an environment like economic development. Does that make sense? So if I can help in any way with that, I think there just needs to be some conversations that happen before the youth begins, if they even decide to. Thank you.
Could we appoint one person tonight and not appoint the youth members right now until we've done a little bit more searching with the committee?
Or would that automatically trigger a new recruitment phase?
It would.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking Sarah.
Well, I would say no, not if you're sort of continuing the item. I mean, are you continuing it for how long? Are you continuing it to start a new recruitment? Or are you continuing it so you can have more discussion on the candidates?
Continue it for additional discussion on the candidates, to discuss with the committee and see if this would be a proper fit for this committee. I served on EDC for about 6 years, and we didn't have any youth, but.
And it's not something they brought up in their charter review that they wanted either.
But it's not up to them if they want it or not.
But have the conversation. No, I understand it's up to us to make the decision,
Yeah.
but.
You know what I mean?
But we didn't have the conversation with them, right?
Yeah.
How it would work, yeah.
I mean, I think it's a really good opportunity. But
I do too, and I'd be
Yeah.
inclined to vote on it tonight.
Mayor Vardalos, City Clerk Coffey and I were recalling when we had the EDC joint study session and the charter discussion, we actually think they did talk about youth membership. And I don't want to necessarily summarize. It was probably just individual comments that weren't supportive of that, but I don't know if that was the whole perspective. So there might have been comments supportive, but in the end, they didn't specify youth positions. Is that ringing a bell with any of the council members?
Yes, so I recall from the study session that it was discussed, and because it was pointed out that municipal code would allow for youth to be appointed without it being a designated youth position, that they chose not to go forward with designating a specific youth position.
I mean, I certainly favor trying it on and seeing how it fits. I have interest in youth being involved in, frankly, all aspects of city. I think it's a perspective that is sorely lacking, and I think we have an opportunity in front of us and an interested party. He seemed optimistic about it and like he wants to tackle the challenge, and he seemed to have the mind for
Who
it.
are you referring to now?
Kyrie.
Oh.
How many members are on the EDC? We had quite a few when I was
It
on.
felt like a lot.
It's a 9-member committee.
Okay.
9 at-large members, and then there's one position that's designated for the Chamber of Commerce appointed member.
I'm not opposed to appointing a youth to the committee. I worry about the 3-year term is my main concern.
My response to that is, and it's a sincere one, if we should find that it's working, that would be a great trigger to re-invite the charter back in to make that minor change to their charter, much as I think we're giving direction tonight. We'd like LAC to come back so that we can solidify the youth seat on LAC.
Okay. Okay. And then I just wanted to ask about Paige Miller too, just because I don't think we have anyone that represents small storefront businesses now, and that seemed like something that could be useful on the committee, but I really defer to you. Sue, I mean, at the meeting that I attended, Paige was there also as a member of the audience, and I get the feeling he's been coming for a while, but.
Yeah, he's come to a couple of meetings. We have Matt Doherty from Mazzetti's, and we have Lawrence, LJ, who doesn't have a storefront. He's a financial analyst kind of work, but he was also really engaged with the youth at the youth business fair, which is really cool. He's actually interested in CTE, doing CTE work. So I got to get him connected with the high school. Yeah.
Right.
So,
Acronyms.
Career and technical education.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And that's on my homework list to do. So yes, I understand. That's a good point.
It is.
I don't know. Your thoughts?
I think that youth is an opportunity I don't want to miss. It sounds like Ed has recently joined on, and y'all would like to see which direction that goes. Your point was well taken around ecology informing economy and where that could go. It sounds like your description leads me to suspect that Ed is now starting to help the group figure out how to really take into account data, metrics.
Yeah.
And I think that while I've been hearing
Fighting him, but yes.
while I've been hearing ecology in terms of economy for a while, I think that that would be an interesting nut to crack in terms of metrics. And I think that it would be helpful to have a strongly econ-minded person on the board accordingly.
Right.
So I'd be inclined to make the motion to appoint Ed, Kyrie, and Lawrence to 3 full 4-year terms to expire October 2028.
I'd second.
And I do appreciate you bringing up Lawrence because he has come and applied over and over again. And so that's a really good point. Because I don't want to discount Paige in any way either. It's really hard when we have so many good people coming up. And so, yeah, again, like we always say, I would encourage folks to reapply. Because it is hard when we have like these opportunities for young people and then we have people who are coming back over and over again. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay, that's all I wanted to say about that.
Okay, we had a first and a second, a motion and a second. Who's on first?
I'm on second.
Please vote.
Need one more light. There we go. And with the motion to appoint Ed Ochi, Lawrence Niemeyer, and Kyrie Chen to full 4-year terms on Economic Development Committee, motion made by Councilmember Big Stick and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Beckmeyer, passes unanimously.
I have a theme tonight and an opportunity I think that I haven't seen in 4 years on council or before being on council, and I'd like to continue with that theme and appoint a youth voice to OSPAC. I think especially in terms of open space and by extension, a window into environmental issues, I think appointing a youth vote, I can't think of a more important time for youth to be involved in that work of protecting our open space. So I would continue by appointing Jamie Wong accordingly.
I'll second that.
I have moved, she has seconded. Discussion.
Any discussion?
No, but this is wonderful. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Step by step.
please vote.
And the motion by Councilmember Big Stick to appoint Jamie Wong to the partial term to expire May 2028 for Open Space and Parkland Advisory Committee, seconded by Councilmember Bowles, passes unanimously.
And then again, I think a conversation with the staff person for OSPAC as well, that'd be really helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now we're going to go back to council communications.
Okay. Let's do it. I won't start.
I'll start.
Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, everyone. We haven't done council communications for a long time. That's what it feels like. So I guess I want to start just by thanking the Fog Fest organizing group over and over again. Like, what an amazing group of people who got together and pulled through, and, you know, including you, Sue. Yeah, thank you so much for everyone who, behind the scenes and with the organizing group and all the people who sponsored the event. Thank you so much. The Fog Fest was off the hook on Saturday, just crazy amounts of people. And for my job, it was really nice. We got to collaborate with HOPE, which is our new nonprofit in town, to do some opioid prevention work, and we gave out at least 300 doses of Narcan, which went along with mini trainings. So people got trained, they got Narcan. It's really beautiful. So I want to thank everyone from HOPE. I want to thank Health Rate 360 and Daly City Youth Health Center for coming and helping at the booth. Okay. So I attended county, what is this? What does CCAG stand for again?
City and County
Association of Governments Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee meeting on September 26th. And I just thought I would go over a little bit of what we did, because I don't usually talk about it in very much detail. But we reviewed and recommended fiscal year 24-25 Transportation Development Act, Article 3 funding for the San Mateo County-wide comprehensive bicycle and ped plan update. It's updated every 5 years, and it's super crucial to identify like infrastructure gaps and money, investing and then improving access. It's supposed to be finished by the end of 2026, so there's opportunities for folks to give public comment on the draft, and that can be found on the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee website, which is on the CCAG website too. We got a presentation from Caltrans. They're also updating the 2018 bicycle plan. And Caltrans is specifically asking for public comment on the bike improvement map and draft bicycle plan, which is again on the Caltrans website. Super concerning about this plan is that the coast is almost completely ignored. And there's red zones on the map that show that there are, hot spots on the coast where there have been fatalities and crashes and things, and really it's just not being considered at all. And so please go and make a public comment about this plan, because it's going to come back to us again. So yeah, it's always concerning when you see all these things going on all over the county, and then you literally can see the red dots going all the way down the coast, but yet it's not part of the plan. So they're not connecting the map to the plan.
Yep.
So yeah, please participate in that. And then we reviewed the complete street checklists with projects from the San Mateo County Transit Authority for Millbrae, San Bruno, San Mateo, Redwood City, and East Palo Alto. There were no projects for Pacifica this time around. I attended the HART meeting, which is the Housing Endowment and Regional Trust, on September 25th. And for those who don't know what HART is, it's a community loan funded, HART is a community loan fund that makes loans for home buyers to developers and to create more affordable housing, and then pre-development construction, rehabilitation, preservation of buildings, and then programs for first-time home buyers. They had their annual event, and so I want to thank everyone who participated in that. HART is a very, very important part of our housing opportunities for all people. And the preservation work that they're doing is really fantastic, where they're able to access and put money into buildings and preserve them and allow people to come back with deed restrictions, which is super cool. And then they're doing some mobile home upgrades too, which is it's really great. HART is wonderful, so yeah, check that out. There was the Age-Friendly Coalition Town Hall meeting, which thank you, Councilmember Beckmeyer, for showing up after I know you had a very long day, because it was a late meeting. But we did learn about the villages, San Mateo County and Coastside Village concept. And so, again, I want to thank everybody on the Age-Friendly Coalition. Keep moving all of that work forward. And other than that, I really want to thank Councilmember Beckmeyer for taking the remaining Economic Development Committee meetings while I am in school. It's midterms right now, which is kind of crazy, but I took one midterm last week, and here's me at home. Okay, got the computer up, doing the midterm, power went out. First time taking a midterm in 20 years. The power went out. And so I'm like trying to email the teacher. I'm like, here's screenshots from PG&E. Like, I swear I'm not lying. Like, the power went out.
And it was out.
And he's like, he's tough. But he let me retake it, so.
Oh, my God.
But I do have another midterm this week, and so I will not be going to the League of California Cities conference this week, so I'm going to miss spending the time with all of you. But I do also have the San Mateo County Leadership Corps on Friday, which is my training opportunity from the city.
Nice.
And so, yeah, I'm really excited. It's a really good fit for me in so many ways. And yeah, so thank you for helping me with my educational opportunities.
Awesome. So proud of you.
Thank you.
Wow.
Next. Go ahead.
I can go. I was hoping to go last because I wanted to say something for Indigenous Peoples Day, but I'll do it anyway. But I'll start with all my different meetings. So the airport roundtable met, and one of the things that we learned, we've been talking about these new, the acronym is ETVOLS, Electric Vertical Takeoff and Landing Vehicles.
Okay.
Basically, new vehicles are coming. There's lots of companies working on them, several in the Bay Area where they're, vertical takeoff, but they're more like a quadcopter with all these little spinning things, not a helicopter.
Wow.
What's the acronym again?
ETVOLS. So right now, the FAA is reviewing the vehicles for safety and, all these things. We have no idea about noise yet and how that impacts things. We have no idea where they're going to go, if they're going over freeways. Obviously, they can't, intersect with airspace with larger airplanes. They will probably be taking off and landing from, maybe small airports like Half Moon Bay, but also what we're learning is the companies that own them are starting to get leases from like shopping centers, Walmarts, and so forth, so that they're basically trying to get in before the codes change and cities put in zoning regulations for them. So this is a little heads-up warning that, as we're looking at our zoning code, we might want to think about that also, right, to make sure, because it can be hugely impactful to the community as they're flying around.
Do you ever see Back to the Future Part 2?
Yeah.
The image I have.
Yeah. And then also, I don't know how many of you know Kathleen Wentworth. She has been there for ages. She was on Jackie Spear's staff working on airport noise issues. She's a former pilot herself. So she has been the administrative consulting staff person, and she is retiring. So December will be her last meeting. I know Sue Degree loves her and, will be there also, but we will really miss her. And when I first started, she actually gave me 2 personal trainings myself, right?
Wow.
Because they didn't have all the stuff up on their website yet. She's really amazing. I've mentioned this to all of you at some point, but we're continuing to have conversations with NOAA about bringing adaptation training here to town.
Yeah.
And which we learned from Mayor Pro Tem Beckmeyer's my brain is starting to go out. The Coastal Cities Working Group through Cal Cities when Santa Cruz did their presentation. And so, they have all these resources they offer for free. And so the city staff doesn't have capacity to organize some of this, but Cindy Abbott through PEF and along with the Pacifica Climate Committee are organizing, and we've been meeting, and so the dates are going to be November 20th and 21st. So it's fairly intense. It's 2.5 hours each day. There's only 30 spots. That's all that they can manage with it's going to be on Zoom, but with breakout rooms. And we're, and talking with the city manager also, we're prioritizing certain people for this first session, including the Pacifica Climate, the CAP team, Climate Action and Adaptation Task Force, because that's part of their work, right, in terms of the adaptation piece. And then some city staff members, and then members that are, involved with the Climate Committee and PEF too. And then because of Brown Act, we're limited to 2 council members at this first one. So Sue and I will be attending the first one. But as part of the signups, they said once they set up the training, it's very easy to offer a second one. So we're going to do a wait list immediately, as part of the signup. So if you're interested, get on the wait list, and we'll be picking other dates in the early new year to do a second training. And then this basically will give everyone a good language and background. In preparation for bringing specific nature-based training later in the spring. So, as we continue our work on our local coastal plan, we can start creatively thinking, like, what are the options? You talk about nature-based solutions, but what does that really mean? And we can actually, as part of that training, look specifically at Pacifica and different areas and what might be some interesting options that we can consider. So anyway, really super exciting.
Yeah.
And then met with the Beach Coalition, and I can't remember if I've announced this before, but Lynn Adams is officially retiring in January, a year from now. And so part of what the organization is really trying to do is make sure that they are, on firm ground for continuing. So, they're looking at their own organization as a nonprofit and so forth, and really trying to increase sustaining donors, because what it's going to mean is that they're going to need to hire a full-time staff person, right? Lynn's been doing just so much work for free, and it's just not sustainable for anybody. So anyway, so as part of that, they've set up a new Coastal Guardians program and really encouraging everyone to sign up. So you make a donation, whatever size, and you're immediately part of that. So you'll be getting all the communication and so forth to, help them as they go on their next steps. And then they wanted to give a special shout out to Public Works for thanking them for all the work with Coastal Cleanup Day, and just really great collaboration. Emergency preparedness, we got a presentation from Anna Miskolta from the Thrive Alliance. So she leads the Thrive Rise COAD, which is Community Organization Active in Disaster. So again, trying to make communities more resilient and using the resources that are there. The nonprofits in town are well connected to the people they serve, and therefore are a natural way in to provide additional help, beyond what our emergency staff can do. And so so I was hoping the committee might get involved, but I think they don't quite have capacity. But any nonprofit basically can reach out to them, and they'll help them prepare an emergency plan. They're setting up computer networking of organizations that provide materials and resources that might be needed, so that you know exactly where to go to. Like if you're helping provide food, like the PRC does, like here are the multiple places that could provide diapers, whatever you need. And then also thinking that some of our community organizations might have resources that could be shared. Like I keep thinking about the Beach Coalition and all their big buckets that would make a great toilet with a plastic bag in it, when you don't have running water. So starting to brainstorm and understand what resources we do have and who we can call on. So they're a great organization, but it's going to take us reaching out to them to help, bring that help into the community. And then Unhoused on the Coast, the county has approved more money through Measure K for services for seniors. Again, they're the fastest growing unhoused population. So if you come across organizations that are working with seniors and trying to keep them in their homes, there's money there. I believe, and maybe Kevin can speak to this, I believe the PRC is going to be making a presentation soon on the safe parking program, the temporary safe parking program, a report on how it's been operating, right? It's coming. They've been working on the report sort of in their mid of the 3-year program. It's now coming up on the last year, but so it's important for us to hear from that. And then right now we have 5 people still on the wait list, with those 4 spots still not available. So yeah, why don't you guys go, and maybe I'll do the landing. I wanted to read something from Braiding Sweetgrass. So I'll do that last, if that's okay.
Well, I don't have a whole lot to report right now, but I'm preparing for this coming Thursday with the Coastal Cities Group presentation at the League of Cities. We attended a couple of different meetings that I don't have the notes from right now to give a good, solid report. But I did speak to it a little bit at a previous council meeting. The gist of the work and the meeting in Monterey at the Coastal Commission meeting was to go over what does the neighborhood approach mean? What does it look like? One thing everyone agrees on is that's a terrible name for it. And so working on maybe it should be the area approach, maybe it should be the district approach. And, we haven't figured it out yet. But the idea being, how do we look at adaptation and what role really does armoring factor into that? Because in some cases, maybe armoring isn't the be-all, end-all solution, but it is certainly needed for multiple decades moving forward. And what do we do in terms of nature-based adaptation? How do we implement that? Where will it be within the bounds of a city, perhaps, and where might it be in that jurisdiction, but also in collaboration with neighboring cities or the region? It could be county even. So all of these ideas are being discussed and explored and refined, and the real purpose of the Monterey meeting was to get a sense from the commissioners about, do you want us to keep doing this? Is this work that you want to see refined and fleshed out, and get their feedback? And the takeaway was, yes, keep working. So we are. And we've got a pretty full agenda for Thursday's meeting at Coastal Cities Group, involving updates on that. And then we have a couple legal updates, even though the cases aren't completely determined yet, but there are updates on the Casamira case down south of us, and another case I can't think of right now, that we will be hearing updates on the panel. And there's something else I can't think of right now. It's a full agenda, though. I remember being anxious that, are we going to really have time for all of this and not be too rushed? So I'm a little bit worried about that. As far as the resource management and climate protection, one of the recent meetings had involved going over RICAPs and updates on the RICAPs, which I don't remember what that stands for. Regional. It's the thing we use for the climate.
Climate action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The consultancy that is made available to cities and county and the county to help us with our climate action plans. They gave us another update, a separate group updated about the refining greenhouse gas emissions quantities, I guess I should call it, for the different jurisdictions. So I don't know where we are with that. If you've received reports on that, if we're going to be getting an update, or is that funneled directly through our CAP process? Do you recall hearing anything about that from the city side?
Well, so we use RICAPs, and there will be a CAP Force update to the council sometime probably early 25.
Seemed like it was January, right? Yeah.
Yes, I think maybe second meeting in January at earliest.
So this was coming out of UC Berkeley, and it was regional input for city and county level GHG emission inventories. So it was pretty high level, like science, theoretical adjustments to how greenhouse gas emission quantities are determined for different jurisdictions. And Civic Well is involved in it, and a group called Stop Waste is involved with it. So I'll see if there's like some kind of handout or something that I could get from that meeting and circulate, because I don't have the specifics on it, but it did seem important to me because GHG is so fundamental in our CAPs, in our climate action plans. So if they're adjusting the way in which we calculate greenhouse gas emissions, and our climate action plan is based on that, it seems like we need to know what's coming. And it is like future, not next week, but it seems like it's evolving. So I think I should be paying attention to this. So I need to get more information about that to share with you. And the next, our Resource Management Climate Protection meeting is this Wednesday, which I will miss, unfortunately. So I'll have to look at the agenda and bring forward any important stuff. That's what I had.
Okay, we all went to Palmapalooza.
Yeah.
Celebrating the 50th anniversary
That was
of the Resource Center.
God, it seems so long
That was
ago.
good, I know. I was looking at, Sue gave a presentation at Skyline on Peninsula, for Peninsula Cal cities on sea level rise, and that was good. Went to Fire Service Day, an art show at the Red Cafe. Was a Chinese communication service group, and it was actually really interesting. They sent a bunch of people to China, and they had an art exhibit here, and they loved being here. So I was invited. Emergency Services Council, I attended, I'm on the county council, was my last meeting. Sad. They gave us a nice coat, though. We went, Tiger and I went to the homelessness with the county. Excuse me, and that was a really interesting meeting, and they kept talking about this app, and no one knew a thing about it. But they have this new county app that we're all supposed to use if we locate anyone who we think is homeless or who needs help.
And specifically, that app is designed for electeds and
It's
other forms of
definitely
officials. It's not an at-large app. I still haven't seen an email about it, though. I don't know if you have.
I have not either.
Okay.
So it'll be for electeds and cities only, not for everyone.
Looking forward to that.
It'll be an interesting item. I did attend the Children's Economic Development Fair, and that was quite fun. Seeing what the kids made, what they were selling, some of them very shy and other ones very outgoing. So it was, a lot of us, I think, were there too. That was good. The city had an employee health fair, which I think I was the only council member who went, but that's a really informative event about what services that you can get as a city employee. And that was actually a really good event too. And many of us went to People Who Care from the from Pacificans Care, and they gave awards to the Gustafsons and Bill Meyerhoff and Lynn Adams for the People Who Care for this year. And last but not least, I went to many more things than this, but Fog Fest was the greatest. We're so thankful that we started with a really small crew of people, and we had a lot of help recruiting Robbie, and it was pretty amazing in the end how many people we had working, and it was probably the biggest Fog Fest ever. So, and yeah, she's tired. Still tired. So, and also In my current state of having a broken arm, I would like to thank mainly Christine, because she takes me home from every one of these meetings, Tiger, who drove me down to Redwood City, Sue, who took me here over to the people who care, and everyone who drives me around. I really appreciate it, and someday I just soon hope I can drive myself, and then maybe I can drive someone else. So, thank you all. That was an important thing to.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else?
Christine.
Christine.
Can I just ask, Scott, can you talk about the Halloween stuff that Park and Rec is doing? Do you mind?
Halloween?
Oh, yeah. So fun.
Yeah.
I was like, did I miss it? Wait.
I know, I don't think I know,
It's
but maybe the
Halloween fast.
community.
There's two things.
Isn't there, like?
There's the
Yeah.
26th,
There's
I
something
think.
at the
and,
pool, there's,
oh, yeah, pumpkins and.
I feel out of touch because we didn't have the collaborative this month because I was sick.
Do they-
So I don't know what's going on.
hi.
Hi there, City Council. This is Scott Leslie, Director of Park, Beaches, and Recreation. The events that you're referring to are, we have a very exciting, I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but there's a aquatic event, pumpkin patch in the water, essentially.
I love that.
And that is on the 25th of October over at Jean E. Brink Pool over at the Oceana campus. I don't have the time right in front of me, but it's going to be an exciting, fun event. We've done it a couple times. We're expanding it a bit. And on the next day, the 26th, will be the Boo Bash, new name for a very exciting event. I think this might be the 20th year that we've had it. We missed one or two because of the pandemic. But it'll be over at the community center. I believe it's starting at 5 o'clock. I could probably send more specific information, but it's a one-day event. It'll have a carnival similar to what we had last year, and of course, the haunted house. Lots of people with costumes. The outside of the building will probably have, in fact, I know we're going to have a ride, amusement ride out on the exterior, so it's going to be a lot of fun for all ages. And we're interested in inviting. We moved the date a little bit because our staff, it was the same day as the, not the prom, what is it, the homecoming dance. So we would have no one showing up to work the event, so we moved it a week back to the 26th.
Oh, right.
Work-life balance, very important for our part-timers.
Right.
So. But it's going to be, we've been doing this event for approximately 20 years. It's very exciting, and the community, it was one of the largest we ever had last year, and we believe that this year is going to be bigger and even better. So I want to invite the community to attend.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You went. We went last year.
Yeah, it was good. It was spookier than I thought it was going to be. And
I'm scared of those.
Scott, I echo the congratulations. It feels like you've been in the job now for so long that smooth transition, and congratulations on making it official.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Christine.
Yeah, so today is Indigenous Peoples Day, as we said, and I've been reading this beautiful book for a while now. I don't have much time to read except for staff reports, but Braiding Sweetgrass is the name, and it's written by a woman who's a scientist, but who's really embedded in a Native community where she is, and really learning from them and restoring the environment around her. So chapter 11 is called the Thanksgiving Address, and this is something that the natives of the Onondaga people do every day at school before school starts. So it's a little bit like the Pledge of Allegiance, but what they say is the Pledge of Allegiance is not complete. It's not the whole story. What's really missing is our connection to the earth, to the creatures and our place and responsibility in it, not just to the nation, but to the place. At the heart of the Thanksgiving address is an invocation of gratitude. And it reminds the whole community, it talks about leadership also, so I thought you all would appreciate it. But it says leadership is not rooted in power and authority, but in service and wisdom. So there's a whole bunch of sections, and like each grade would recite one, and then at the end of each piece, the whole community says, "Now our minds are one." So I'm going to read just 2 sections. There's a lot. I can't imagine how much time it takes with all these little kids sitting still. But today we have gathered, and when we look upon the faces around us, we see that the cycles of life continue. We have been given the duty to live in balance and harmony with each other and all living things. So now let us bring our minds together as one as we give greetings and thanks to each other as people. Now our minds are one. And then a second one. We are thankful to our mother, the earth, for she gives us everything that we need for life. She supports our feet as we walk about upon her. It gives us joy that she still continues to care for us, just as she has from the beginning of time. To our mother, we send thanksgiving, love, and respect. Now our minds are one. And then just a reflection question. What happens to nationalism, to political boundaries, when allegiance lies with winds and waters that know no boundaries and that cannot be bound, that cannot be bought or sold? Anyway, it's really beautiful. I really recommend the book. But
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've seen that title and wondered about it. Thank you.
Okay. I am going to adjourn the meeting at 10:26 p.m. This is the earliest we've ever left a meeting in like years. So thank you all.
Yay.
Thanks.